It looks like we're up.
Yep. And we'll keep that up for 4 hours.
Okay.
And we'll end it. That was the commercials, right?
Yeah, I was just making sure. I'm not used to having everything on Audition, so it just kind of freaks me out that I can't hear what's going on. So
I hear you.
That feeds down your end too if I'm in Audition, correct?
I'm sorry, what?
No, but if I turn on air on an Audition, I know it feeds down to your side too. So you
Right,
guys
like
keep it
when
off.
you hit right when you hit that button, I heard it.
Okay.
And then the only thing you have to be pretty aware of is to make sure that during the commercial break that our mics are not going over the air.
Well, correct. Yeah.
Well, it happens.
Yeah. Oh, I'm. Yeah. I think after 20 some years. Yeah, I know. But it is different because I mean, normally we don't take the mics out of program, which is what Mark does. But I get it. I get it. So we'll be good.
Okay. Thank you. EB, what do you mean by you're on? Morning, everybody. Gotcha. Yep. System was almost perfect last night. It was probably perfect for all of you. Yes. Thank you, EB. Yes. I also like what Rick is doing with the mood lighting on his end, so he can just,
yeah,
so that he can just doze off during the commercial breaks for a couple of minutes at a time.
I'm not usually. This is what I've always done. So I know Mark usually keep the lights on.
No. I like it. It's your way of saying hey.
Listen, the more shadows on my face, the better.
Stop
it. Off we all are.
Right. That's true. We can just call Rick the Shadow.
I can go with that.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, coming at you from the Floormeister Studios. Floormeisters, keeping it real. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Top of the morning to you on this Thursday. Still the first Thursday of the month. Mark off for the rest of the week. How the heck are you, Miller and Moulton? MillerandMoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. Tried to rein in the yell because I am, right smack dab in the middle of a row of rooms in a very nice hotel in Florence, Alabama, getting ready for what I love this time of year more than anything else. the small conference tournaments, the one bid leagues where there is a compelling story about each and every school that is left, that is think it happened in Florence, Alabama. Am I back now, Rick?
We we are back, sir.
Wow. A very, very rough start to the show. My apologies. We actually have to head to our first commercial break coming up here in less than 30 seconds. I'll cross my fingers and my toes that whatever internet and phone glitch just happened in Florence, Alabama is a one-time thing. We actually have a hell of a show lined up for you. We really do. Jeff Cameron, Sam Peebles to talk a little Braves baseball, Soren Petro to talk about the Chiefs' big move, and JP Shadrick as well. Miller and Moulton.
For over 50 years, the Nolan family has been dedicated to protecting local families. Nolan Family Insurance is a second-generation independent agency that specializes in home, flood, auto, and boat insurance. They take the time needed to explain your coverage options and answer your questions so you can make an informed decision that's right for you. If you're looking for an agency that treats you like family, call 941-639-1122 or go to nolanagency.com. That's 941-639-1122 or nolanagency.com.
Basketball's heating up the hardwood. What a great time to stop in at the Floor Meisters and look at their hardwood. A large selection to choose from, including Mirage hardwood flooring. Floor Meisters has a look and style you want. Mirage wood is grown and made in Canada from the finest quality wood flooring you'll find. And while you're in, ask to see the Petite Enfant collection. 5 custom colors made only for the Floor Meisters. So good it has a 35-year warranty. Floor Meisters, 6281 Naples Boulevard, next to Costco, or floormeisters.com.
American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net. Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Whew. Golly. Well, that was upsetting. Panic. Do need working internet to do the show. Don't know what happened in Florence, Alabama there. Because when they were trying to call me, their phone calls weren't even going through on my phone. That's how messed up that got.
I'm sorry, what now?
No, I'm talking to the Twitch chat room.
Oh, okay. I could see your list, but I had my
Right.
volume down.
Nope. I'm Florence, Alabama, Johnny Mac. No, have not heard a factory whistle go off, but that funny. That funny. So I should hear the rejoinder here in a few seconds, right? Okay.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton. Text the guys what's in your mind at 21,000. That's 21000. And now, here's David Moulton.
Let's try it again. 21 minutes past the hour. Top of the morning to you, Miller and Moulton. MillerandMoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. Maybe it was the guy in the room next door unhappy with me doing the "how the heck are you" scream, and he shut off the internet in the building for about 10 minutes there last segment. Apologize for the technical difficulties and crossing everything I can that it was a one-time only thing. Mark is off for the rest of the week. Rick Church, we're calling him Rick the Shadow Church. If you were to chime in on twitch.tv/Miller and Moulton in our Twitch chat room, Rick has got the moonlighting going in his side of the Southwest Florida studio. So you can kind of see him, but he looks as if, he's DJing the overnight shift in a movie from the 70s.
Well,
right.
This is actually the standard, David. Typically, I'm running a Florida Everblades game, a Florida Gators game.
Right.
And so, this is just typical. It's not really, anyways, like I said, it's probably the more shadows covering my face, probably the better off we all are.
Well, I'm just saying, though, you've got your own ambiance going, which I have to admit, you're adding to the Miller and Moulton Twitch.tv experience. We appreciate that. Man, did a lot go on in the sports world last night. What sport you want to talk about, honestly? How about we just do a little March Madness? How about, by the way, the Gators had to have wrapped up a 1 seed last night, right? I mean, do they have to beat Ole Miss at home over the weekend to make it official? But Florida goes into Alabama, beats the Tide 99-94. They have now beaten Alabama and Auburn on their home floors. And then when Tennessee, who they were battling with for a 1 seed, goes and loses at Ole Miss, one has to believe that the Gators will be a 1. I think it's absolutely locked in stone if they beat Ole Miss at home over the weekend, but I got to believe it's over 90% there after the events of last night. Michigan State all but wrapped up the regular season Big Ten title last night when Maryland went in to Ann Arbor and handed the Wolverines their second straight loss, 71-65. I said it a week ago. I'm taking the 13 seed opposite Michigan in the NCAA tournament. I think they've peaked, and I think they are free falling. Our system likely for most, if not all of you, went 4-0. For Miller and Moulton, it went 3-1. We go by what the point spread is at tip. And there was a late line move in the Wisconsin-Minnesota game. And Wisconsin went from being a 7.5 point favorite to a 6.5 point favorite. And Wisconsin beat the Gophers by 7. So we, Miller and Moulton, have to take that as a loss. I'm guessing many of you, though, when we were giving out the system plays on the air yesterday, and if you placed your bets in the middle of the day yesterday, your system plays likely went 4-0 because you were getting points with Ole Miss at home against Tennessee, and they beat the Vols outright. You were getting points at home with Oklahoma against Missouri, and they beat the Tigers outright. And you were getting 15 and change at home with Boston College, and they only lost to Clemson by 9. So the system is at worst 4-1 this week. And for some of you, it may be 5-0. One little side note, and you know I pay attention to women's hoops more than most of you. One of the great streaks in NCAA tournament history is going to end. The Stanford women are not going to make the NCAA tournament. They got beat in the first round of the, how weird does this sound, ACC tournament last night. And Tara Vanderveer retired, and they're in transition, just like so many programs when they lose their legendary coach. Just ask Villanova, just ask Syracuse on the men's side. Yeah, Stanford has made the tournament 36 seasons in a row. And if you throw in the 1 year that COVID eliminated the tournament, I think the last time Stanford didn't make the NCAA tournament on the women's side, Ronald Reagan was wrapping up his presidency. Wow. So anyway, that's out there with college hoops last night. I'm in Florence, Alabama. Was saying it during the first segment, so I hesitate to say it again because maybe it was the subject matter that doomed us technically. But the ASUN semis, 4 teams left. Here's the irony. Only 3 can go to the NCAA tournament. The 2 teams that are playing tonight in Florence, Alabama, they can both go. They're eligible. North Alabama's hosting Jacksonville. That's the 2 seed hosting the 4 because the ASUN reseeds after the first round of the playoffs. North Alabama, by the way, a 6.5 point favorite, and they've yet to lose at home in conference play. Winner goes to the ASUN final. North Alabama's never gone to the NCAA tournament. Then again, this is only their 7th year removed from Division II. If you go back 12 years, remember when FGCU went to the Sweet 16? Yeah, it was their 6th year removed from the Division II ranks. So North Alabama kind of in their infancy, the way FGCU was a dozen years ago. Meanwhile, Jacksonville hasn't been to the NCAA tournament since the aforementioned Reagan administration back in 1986. On the other side, it's Lipscomb against Queens. All right, Queens, who's knocked off FGCU for the 3rd year in a row in a first-round ASUN tournament game, is still not yet eligible to go to the NCAA tournament because they're a Division II program serving out their 4-year probationary period in the Division I ranks, and they're only 3/4 of the way through it. And they'll be taking on the top seed Lipscomb, who's a 9-point favorite at home. Best seed remaining ends up hosting the title game. So there. I love the small conference. Absolutely love them. Love the fact that this much is riding on the line in these games. And I love the fact that one of the 4 teams involved in this conference tournament is literally, well, playing for pride in the heck of it. And the others are playing for their basketball lives, so to speak. So it is March, therefore there will be madness. And it is very much on display once again today, yesterday, and the day before. Power conference tournaments getting underway, in some cases over the weekend, but in most cases early next week. Small conference tournaments already underway. The starting 5 is coming up, and in it, we will go through a plethora of NFL moves yesterday. Free agency technically doesn't begin till next Wednesday, but it really begins on Monday because you can legally tamper all day Monday, all day Tuesday, and up until 4 o'clock on Wednesday. Well, if that's the case, how much tampering do you think is going on now? With all the players that are getting released and all the contracts that are being renegotiated, yeah, I think there are deals that are already being signed and put in the drawer and being held until Adam Schefter is tipped off at 4:01 next Wednesday. So the starting 5 with a full day of NFL news is coming up. By the way, the NHL trade deadline is tomorrow at 3 in the afternoon, and the Tampa Bay Lightning got this week going yesterday with a big deal, giving up a lot of future assets. And their general manager just flat out saying, yeah, I'd rather have a bunch of good players than a bunch of draft picks. Yeah. Tell me a fan base that doesn't want to hear that. Give me the good team that's going to take a couple more runs at it. I'll worry about the prospects in the future, in the future. Miller and Moulton. Jeff Cameron to join us in a little more than an hour. We'll put the whole ACC thing to bed and what it means for the future of Florida State and others coming up. Sam Peebles, our spring training tours continue. We'll check in on the Braves. Soren Petro, Chiefs making one of those moves. JP Shadrick, Jags have made a bunch of moves, and they released a veteran yesterday. We'll talk to JP about that. The starting 5 is next. Miller and Moulton are very grateful to you, the listeners, for making us one of the highest rated shows for men, because the working man is one of the toughest demos to reach, and we do. Great sponsors like Floor Meisters, American Paint Supplies, Glass Doctor, Sleep Treatment Direct, Game Day Men's Health, and Molly Maid recognize that, and we thank them. And if you own a business and working men are your clientele, the most cost-effective way to reach them is through us. Text Miller and Moulton at 21,000 or directly via X at that Mark Miller or the David. Basketball's heating up the hardwood. What a great time to stop in at the Floor Meisters and look at their hardwood. A large selection to choose from, including Mirage hardwood flooring. Floor Meisters has a look and style you want. Mirage wood is grown and made in Canada from the finest quality wood flooring you'll find. And while you're in, ask to see the Petite Enfant collection. 5 custom colors made only for the Floor Meisters. So good it has a 35-year warranty. Floor Meisters, 6281 Naples Boulevard, next to Costco, or floormeisters.com.
Is snoring bothering your spouse? Would you like to sleep in the same bed again? Do you know that snoring can affect your sleep cycle and cause lower testosterone levels? At Sleep Treatment Direct, we have easy solutions. We have a simple laser procedure that can improve snoring in 10 minutes. If you would like to get back in the same bed or are looking for a natural way to treat low testosterone, give us a call at 239-444-1741. That's 239-444-1741. Or go to sleeptreatmentdirect.com. That's sleeptreatmentdirect.com. Sleep Treatment Direct. Sleep safe and sound. Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Yes, we only have one game, I think, involving a ranked team tonight, Ambient. So, yes, only one possible system play. Huh. I don't know if Mark's at West Bay. Pat Kerwin lives out by West Bay. I think Mark's tournament is at his club, Estero Country Club there. Didn't it used to be called the Vines, or it is called the Vines, or I don't know. But yeah, folks, 2 days, we'll keep the train on the tracks, and we'll go back to all the bells and whistles, what limited they are on Monday. I mean, I got Rick producing and engineering games last night, and then turning around, coming back in for this. And with his mood lighting, he's definitely going to fall asleep at some point during the show.
Hey, you've been yawning more than I have, David.
Yeah, I'm a good yawner. I think I've been up longer though.
But probably, yeah.
But I got more sleep though. At least I should have. I was asleep before you. Was I asleep? No, I wasn't asleep before you left the studio last night.
Yeah, Blades game ended about 9:45-ish. Another loss last night.
They're in first though, aren't they?
Oh yeah, I believe they still have the best record in the entire ECHL. But yeah, South Carolina's nipping at their heels.
Oh, those
Not only in the
Stingrays.
South Division, but I think South Carolina might be second in the
Overall
as well. South Division rules. They played Norfolk last night.
Yes, the Admirals beat them. I saw that.
Yep.
I bet our buddy Pat Kerwin was at the game. I was ordering playoff tickets last night. Sonny, you got to remember I worked at the station for 20 years. So I'm familiar with all the fishing shows and the fantasy football and the Sunday mornings with Dr. Roto. And oh, yeah. Now, Rick can just doze. He can just lean back or lean on his arm. No, Rick's got the professional doze going.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton. Text the guys what's in your mind at 21,000. That's 21000. And now, here's David Moulton.
22 minutes till the top of the hour. Jeff Cameron scheduled to join us 1 hour from now. Little spring training talk with Sam Peebles, Soren, Petro, JP Shadrick as we go through some of the moves that NFL teams are making. And man, are they making a lot of moves. Well, they kind of have to. Teams got to get to the cap, get as much cap room as they can. Free agency starts next week. Legal tampering on Monday, which means it's already begun. You can sign people as of 4 o'clock next Wednesday, which means that those contracts will go in the drawer this weekend. And there you have it. Mark is off for the rest of the week. Rick Church manning things back in our Southwest Florida studios. Right now, it is time for the starting five.
Oh, hold on, David. I got it. You ready? All right. Don't laugh at me. I should have been prepared. All right, here we go.
The starting five. 5 big stories you need to know. Here is the starting five.
Now, see, this is where Mark and I not communicating during the commercial breaks, but knowing how the other thinks. See, this doesn't help Rick at all when I don't communicate with him and say, hey, by the way, coming up next segment, we have because he could really use that information. And of course,
I knew, Dave. I should have known, David. I knew. I just wasn't paying attention.
That's on me. That's on me. All right, let's start with the NFL. Man, a ton of moves yesterday. Jags release or will be releasing wide receiver Christian Kirk. He's 28 years old. He's far and away their best slot receiver. He was about to enter the final year of his contract. They're going to save a little less than $11 million by getting rid of him. The Chargers last night, in what has to be considered a surprise, released defensive end Joey Bosa, who turns 30 in July. Bosa, the last 3 years, has been battling injuries all 3 seasons. He has just 14 sacks total in the last 3 years. The Chargers will save over $25 million by getting rid of Bosa. The Chargers enter free agency right now with $91 million they can spend. Vegas, a bunch of moves. They're releasing Gardner Minshew. They'll save $3 million. They're going to take a nearly $11 million dead cap hit. Boy, that signing didn't go well. Meanwhile, they signed Max Crosby to a 3-year extension, making him the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. He now makes $500,000 a year more than Vikings wide receiver Justin Jefferson. That noise you hear is Jamar Chase jumping up and down because he already was asking for more than Jefferson. Now he's going to be asking for more than Crosby. Crosby signing 3 years, 106 and change. In other words, $35.5 million a year. 85% of this contract, by the way, $91.5 million is guaranteed. That's a lot. That's a lot. A lot of contracts are between 67 and 75%. For him to get 85% of the contract guaranteed, we're getting closer and closer to 100% guaranteed contracts. We'll see if it happens. Seattle announces they're cutting wide receiver Tyler Lockett. He's number 2 all-time on all the receiving lists in Seattle behind the legendary Steve Largett. They're going to save $17 million in cap space by releasing the 10-year veteran. Meanwhile, DK Metcalf has requested a trade. The 27-year-old has 1 year left on his deal. He's making $18 million this year, and the Seahawks have apparently determined they're not going to sign him long-term. This will be interesting to see what they get, never mind who will pony up for DK Metcalf. I mean, why rent him for a year? If you're going to go get him and sign him, right? Bradley Chubb taking a salary cut to stay with the Dolphins. He would have been a $28 million cap hit if they got rid of him this coming season. Chubb, along with Teron Armstead, accepting a restructured deal to stay with the Dolphins. Yesterday morning, Kansas City traded All-Pro guard Joe Thuney to the Bears for a 2026 fourth-round pick. Thuney's 32 years old. He's entering the final year of his contract, making $16 million per. The Chiefs players just voted him team MVP last year. Remember, he's an all-pro guard who moved out to left tackle because they had such a glaring hole there. And he did a terrific job until the Super Bowl. Dak Prescott reworked his contract, freed up over $36 million for the Cowboys. And the Eagles signed linebacker Zach Bond to a 3-year, $51 million deal. 2 of those 3 years are guaranteed. I believe that is all the NFL news. If I miss something, I will get to it later in the show. College hoops, the Gators, I got to believe, I think Rick believes, I think you all believe, locked down a 1 seed last night. They went into Alabama and beat the Tide 99-94. Alex Condon, the big Australian, 27 points, 10 rebounds. Gators have now beaten both Auburn and Alabama on their home courts. And Tennessee loses at Ole Miss last night, 78-76. got to believe the Gators are a 1 seed now. I mean, Bama and Tennessee will still be 2 seeds. One of them will get Duke and one of them will get Houston. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world, but got to believe the Gators. And I would think they'll be sent out west. Auburn will get the South, Duke the East, Houston the Midwest, and they'll send the Gators out west.
But David, what if we have some kind of chaos in the SEC tournament? I mean, so much can happen in the SEC tournament that I think will really impact the seedings, right?
I don't think so. In recent years, if you look closely, the committee pretty much had, and certainly by the Wednesday, Thursday of the conference tournaments, they pretty much had it all locked down. Rick, I think the Gators would have to lose at home to Ole Miss, and they'd have to lose their first round SEC tournament game to have a chance of moving down to the 2 line. The committee, for the most part, does not count these conference tournaments, except maybe for a bubble team or 2. And obviously, if somebody just flat steals a bid, they weren't going to make it. And then they win the conference tournament and they make it. Maryland went to Michigan and beat the Wolverines 71-65. That means Michigan State only has to win one of its next 2 games to win the Big Ten regular season title. Spartans are taking on Iowa on the road tonight. That's a system play, by the way. You'll get the Hawkeyes and 6.5.
Love Maryland, by the way, David. In fact, if I had a sleeper team right now going into the tournament, it'd be Maryland. Love that Maryland team.
Can a 4 seed be a sleeper? Because they're going to be a 4. They could be a 3, but they'll probably be a 4. Is that far enough down for you to, get the bragging rights that you want from your friends?
Probably not. But with everything going on in the SEC and the top of the Big Ten, you don't hear that much about them.
Well, true. Also, Miami, when they made the Final Four a couple years ago, did it as a 4 seed, beating top seeded Houston in the Sweet 16. You still can get bragging rights, Rick, if Maryland's a 4 and you pick them to win the region, and they do. So 11th ranked Clemson won on the road. 15th ranked Missouri lost on the road. I've already mentioned 4th ranked Tennessee lost at Ole Miss. Wisconsin won at Minnesota. Texas Tech comfortably at home. Marquette lost again. They were top 10 3 weeks ago. They may be unranked next week. UConn beat them 72-66, and it is great to see Louisville back where they belong. They beat Cal by 17. They'll be one of the 3 ACC teams in the dance. UCF, a winner in Big 12 tournament play last night, 83-70 over Oklahoma State. UCF women, a winner in the Big 12 tournament as well. Gators, a winner in the SEC tournament. They play Alabama tonight. And I mentioned it earlier, Stanford's long NCAA tournament streak is going to end. The Cardinal got beat first round ACC tournament, 36 tournaments in a row. That streak will end this year. NBA, Heat lose a close one in Cleveland, 112-107. They're 3 games below 500. Boston got 43 from Peyton Pritchard in a 10-point win over the Blazers. Rick's T-Wolves are the 7 seed. They beat Houston by 15. 50 for James Harden last night. Clippers slowed down the Pistons, 123-115. Pistons still lead the Heat by 5, however, for the 6 seed to avoid the play-in. Denver is the 3 seed out west. They beat Sacramento 116-110. Oklahoma City, with their 51st win of the year, they won in Memphis by 17. And the poor Mavs don't know if they're going to win again. They lost to Milwaukee by 30. Ovechkin with number 885. He's 9 away from Gretzky. He tied the game mid-third on the power play. Caps win it in overtime 3-2 against the Rangers. Ottawa with the win in Chicago. The Senators hold down the final playoff spot in the East at this moment. Vegas 5-2 over Toronto. Vancouver with the 3-2 win over Anaheim. They're tied with Calgary for the final playoff spot out west. And the Blues are a point back in the wild card race. They beat the Kings in LA 3-2 in a shootout. Big NHL deal yesterday. The Lightning send 2 first-round picks and a 2nd-round pick to the Seattle Kraken. Yanni Gourde comes back into the fold. He's a tremendous face-off guy. They'll use him for important faceoffs in the playoffs, but they also get Oliver Borkstad, who has this year and next year still on a contract. So the Lightning adding depth scoring to make this serious Stanley Cup playoff run. Oh, by the way, the Devils lost forward Jack Hughes for the year with shoulder surgery. They did put him on long-term IR to free up $8 million, but maybe the Devils make a major deal by the trade deadline tomorrow afternoon. A couple other college hoops notes. Duke assistant Jai Lucas has been named, and it'll officially happen today, the new Miami men's basketball coach. And he'll be leaving Duke after their North Carolina game Saturday. Now, this happens in football all the time, but it's never happened in basketball before. But because of the transfer portal, the feeling is that Lucas can't hang around Duke for a deep tournament run. He's got to leave now and take over the reins in Miami. So he'll join the Hurricanes on Sunday. And legendary high school coach Kevin Boyle, who won state titles in Elizabeth in New Jersey and then won a bunch with Montverde on the east coast of Florida, is going to be leaving Montverde Academy and going to Ohio to become head coach of the Spire Academy. I think somebody should hire him to be their college coach. Just a thought. And at 10 minutes before the hour, that was the starting five. 5 big stories and Spire Academy that you need to know here on Miller and Moulton. So of all those tidbits, Rick Church, what interested you the most?
Well, I mean, probably all the crazy football news. I was not that surprised that they let Joey Bosa go. Were you?
A little bit in this sense because Khalil Mack's also a free agent. So they're 2 edge rushers. They could lose them both. And they really don't have much right now on the roster. And there's not much available in free agency. I mean, they'd have to give up draft picks to get Trey Hendrickson away from Cincinnati a year early. So that's what, to me, maybe this is they chose Bosa or they chose Mack over Bosa, and now we're going to see them sign Khalil Mack before free agency. That's the only thing. They're letting both their defensive ends go as of right now.
I mean, Joey Bosa's obviously really struggled, especially with injuries the last couple of years. He's not the player he was.
Nope.
3, 4, 5 years ago. So I wasn't that surprised. And I'm already hearing DJ Metcalf to the Chiefs. But
I'd be very surprised if the Chiefs spent their limited salary cap room on DK Metcalf. They now need 2 tackles and a guard more than anything else. I've got to believe that the Chiefs are going to spend whatever money they have, get Ronnie Stanley moving up in the first round to grab another tackle. I just, that would be something. Also, you know, DK's a diva. DK is a diva, and it's tough to walk into that locker room as a diva. That'd be an interesting fit. How about Pittsburgh, by the way, for DK Metcalf?
Well, probably depends on who's going to be throwing him the ball, but you know.
True. But
could it be Aaron Rodgers?
It could be.
Could it be Sam Darnold?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. No, I don't think so either.
I think Sam Darnold in Tennessee, that deal may already be done.
Well, David, I was just shocked that the tag window came and went in Minnesota. Wouldn't that just make a lot of sense for Minnesota to tag Sam Darnold, keep him around for one more year, then give your JJ McCarthy the transition? But I was shocked. So I don't know what's going to happen next.
They saved $36 million because McCarthy, in theory, is their starter at $5 million versus Sam Darnold as their starter at 41. Rick, here's the only problem. Just because you tag somebody, if he signs it, it counts immediately. If he doesn't sign it, you have to keep all that salary cap space available because he could turn around 1 minute and sign it. So it could end up being months of wasted space if he's unhappy with the cap and doesn't sign it. And you can't trade him until he signs it also. So I think they just said, thanks for your time. We wish you the best.
For over 50 years, the Nolan family has been dedicated to protecting local families. Nolan Family Insurance is a second-generation independent agency that specializes in home, flood, auto, and boat insurance. They take the time needed to explain your coverage options and answer your questions so you can make an informed decision that's right for you. If you're looking for an agency that treats you like family, call 941-639-1122 or go to nolanagency.com. That's 941-639-1122 or nolanagency.com. Sleep problem but don't want to wear a CPAP mask? This is Mark Miller for Sleep Treatment Direct. The mask wasn't working for me and I didn't think I had an alternative. I do. We all do. They have such simple alternatives with greater success than the mask. Visit sleeptreatmentdirect.com. That's sleeptreatmentdirect.com. And if you are like me and your CPAP machine isn't working for you, it's time for a change. Call 239-444-1741. That's 239-444-1741. Sleep Treatment Direct. Sleep safe and sound.
Basketball's heating up the hardwood. What a great time to stop in at the Floor Meisters and look at their hardwood. A large selection to choose from, including Mirage hardwood flooring. Floor Meisters has a look and style you want. Mirage wood is grown and made in Canada from the finest quality wood flooring you'll find. And while you're in, ask to see the Petite Enfant collection. 5 custom colors made only for the Floor Meisters. So good it has a 35-year warranty. Floor Meisters, 6281 Naples Boulevard, next to Costco, or floormeisters.com.
Honey, you want to come out? I haven't seen you since Glass Doctor installed our custom shower enclosure.
No thanks.
Well, you can't keep eating breakfast in the shower, and laminating your magazines is getting expensive. You remember we have guests coming over tonight, right?
Oh, I'm sure they'd love to see the shower.
It's our neighbors, and I highly doubt they want to be hanging out in our bathroom.
The shower is so good, you'll never want to leave. Visit glassdoctor.com today and schedule an appointment online.
American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net. Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Barstool Sleeper, you are correct. I can't believe he's going to break Gretzky's record this year. after missing a month. And they're the best team in the East. And he's scoring big goals, too. Big goals. I mean, that tied the game at 2 in the third last night. They won in overtime. They were down 2-0 in the third. His last goal, he scored to make it 2-1. I mean, I knew when the Rangers committed that penalty, I'm like, this is going to end up at the back of the net. I love watching him play. And he'll hit you too. Oh, Empire. Vasilevsky in goal. Hedman having his best year probably in 4 years. Okay. They just added depth scoring. They had the best coach in the league. Yeah. 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 They're going to be. And they're going to be a problem next year, too. You know, Gord, his contract's up, but he'll come back for the veteran minimum. Okay. Who's the guy that they picked up? That Borkstrand? He's got a year left on his deal. Yeah, you might as well. How many chances do you get to win Lord Stanley?
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, coming at you from the Floor Meister Studios. Floor Meisters, keeping it real. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Mark is off for the rest of the week. Rick Church back in our Southwest Florida studios, producing, engineering, chiming in when asked. Miller and Moulton, millerandmoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. Rick, there's no wrong answer. Just throwing this in underhanded. Everybody's got differing opinions on this question. How turned off are you, if at all, by all of the money that is blatantly out in the open now in college athletics in the last 2 years? Scale of 1 to 10, 10 being disgusted, this sucks, I feel dirty.
17.5, David. I can't stand it. And I'll tell you what I think bugs me the most is I'm watching a college football game, right? And who would have ever thought we'd see the day where they'd say, well, here's, Fred Johnson, the quarterback. He spent a year at Alabama, went to Texas A&M, spent a year in Stanford, and now he's at West Virginia. It's like, I can't stand it. It's absurd. It's ridiculous. Like, we could have taken a smaller step to get to this point.
Well, we could have, Rick. And by the way, quick sidebar, ladies and gentlemen, I had no idea I was going to get this answer. We did not speak to one another during the commercial break. I threw it in underhanded. I thought the scale was 1 to 10. I didn't realize it went to 17.5.
Loathe it. I loathe college sports and its money and its transfer portal and its nil. And you know what else I can't stand, David? Another thing, like college football teams are hiring general managers now. Oh, great. We have a general, Andrew Luck is the general manager of the Stanford football team. And who is it? Bill Belichick's buddy is the
Mike Lombardi.
Manager.
Right.
It's
Mike Lombardi. Right. Making $1.5 million, by the way.
Yeah.
Also, it's not a low paying job. Right.
It's absurd. I can't.
Wow.
Sorry. All right, I'm done.
Okay. No. You opened up more than a can there, sir. More than a can. I will challenge you with this one point, however. You said, why couldn't we have more slowly gotten to this point. And I'll tell you why. It was the NCAA's doing, along, quite frankly, with the schools, but it was mostly the NCAA's doing. If you go back, and we've mentioned this before, 15 years ago, Steve Spurrier was like, can't we give these guys a stipend? I mean, there have been people along the way who wanted to, above board, out in the open, compensate the athletes.
Exactly. That's been talked about for years.
Right. And the NCAA was a dead set hard no. And so you know what's going to happen. We're going to go to court, and it's going to be either or. And they lost. So now we're getting the or, Rick. Now for the first time, the players arguably have the leverage, Rick. They can go, especially since the transfer rules, when they first started being able to be paid legally above board 2 years ago, you couldn't just get up and leave whenever you wanted. Now you can do that as well. So think about it. They can negotiate on behalf of themselves. They can hire an agent to negotiate on behalf of themselves. And they can do that scenario that you just described where they can play for 4 schools in 4 years. And it's all legal. And it didn't have to be this way, Rick, but the NCAA, along with the conferences and the schools, because they were rooting the NCAA on, okay, they didn't go to them and say, hey, let's compromise. Hey, no, this is going to blow up in our face. This is going to end up badly. No. They said, go. You spend the money in legal fees. Good luck before the Supreme Court. That verdict was 9-0 that they lost before the Supreme Court. 9-0. Read what Clarence Thomas and Justice Kavanaugh said to the NCAA in their questioning and in their opinion. I mean, when's the last time you heard of the Supreme Court having a 9-0 ruling on anything? All right. So that, Rick, I would argue we could have gone step by step by step by step. But the approach was, we ain't never going to pay them at all.
And David, did the nil thing basically start with the Ed O'Bannon lawsuit against the video game companies?
Yeah. And I think O'Bannon won in 2009.
Yes. That was a long time ago.
Yes, but nothing happened.
As someone who loves playing video games, that always blew my mind because you could play college sports video games and you'd have a number and you'd have stats and it would exactly match up to the guy that was actually on the team, just without his name. They even looked like him.
Right. Well, and that's why O'Bannon took him to court. He's like, how come we don't get anything for this? But then remember, the game went away.
The video game.
After O'Bannon won, the game went away.
Yes.
And it only came back, last year?
Right.
So I mentioned, and I asked that question of you, Rick, to find out where you were about all the money being out in the open. Because this was going on 5 years ago and 10 years ago and 20 years ago. All right. And there are some that believe that what Texas Tech did yesterday is a complete waste of money. I mean, Mike Locksley is the football coach at Maryland. And Mike Locksley famously before last season said, all that money that we and other schools spent on facilities, you can have a dump. The kids just want to know how much they're getting paid. Yeah. They want to be able to play and get paid. And if you can offer them playing time and pay them the most money, they'll go play for you whether you have a weight room or not. Well, Texas Tech has got a billionaire. And he wants to make Texas Tech as good as Texas and Texas A&M. And his last name is Womble, Womble, Dustin Womble. And Dustin has thrown some money around, and it's good because he's got billions. And Rick, I don't know if you saw this yesterday, but Texas Tech unveiled a new football facility. This is in Lubbock, Texas. Construction costs are pretty affordable in Lubbock, Texas. There, Rick. Would you care to guess how much money the new football facility went for?
I mean, it's got to be 100 million or more.
Yeah. Higher.
200 million.
Higher.
400 million.
Lower. 242.
Okay.
The new Texas Tech Womble Football Center. It includes a barbershop, a
Great.
podcast studio.
Kids will love that.
Yeah, actually, they will. All right. Actually, they will.
Oh, I know. Oh, I know. I
Especially-
wasn't being sarcastic at all.
No.
They will.
Especially when you're recruiting the African American athlete, and how many black kids think that there's a good barbershop in Lubbock, Texas?
Wasn't there a controversy about haircuts with was it Youngstown State?
Yep.
Right. And what's the name of the coach that went on to the Buckeyes? But I know that's a big thing.
Okay.
Kids were getting free haircuts, and that was a controversy back in the day.
So they get the new facility, a barbershop, a podcast studio.
Perfect.
Yeah. Hey, a 2-story team lounge. Okay, not just a new team lounge, a 2-story team lounge. Recovery areas. The walkthrough room is named after Patrick Mahomes. You know, they got a hydro and cryo recovery areas and what have you. Yeah, we could live here. This is a hotel. Like, I'm staying at a place, a Renaissance something in spa right now in Florence, Alabama. I'd stay in the Womble Center, I think. And this is a very nice hotel. I'm getting a buffet after the show, paid for. Okay, they got a pool and a spa. I think I'd stay in the Womble Center over this.
Yeah,
This is really nice.
Said, they're still going to go where the nil money's the best. But all things being equal, yeah, that kind of facility is going to attract players, you know, that are on that line between, you know, where they can get more money.
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, this guy's worth at least $6 billion. He's already built the basketball center, by the way. He took care of the football center second. He took care of the basketball center for the men and the women. All right, he took care of that first. Texas Tech won 8 games last year. All right.
But they have a much richer basketball tradition than they do a football tradition.
They do. Okay. But they do have some football tradition. And obviously they want to expand on that. And that's the other thing that could come about the rest of this decade. You know, since now money is everything. You could argue tradition means less. Despite this big investment, you could argue facilities mean less. Since money means everything, well, then what school can't emerge as a power, right? I mean, why can't it be Texas Tech? Why can't it be BYU? You don't think they have some money in the church? You don't think BYU can get their hands on some cash? All right. You don't think this is important to BYU? It's very important to BYU. I mean, we saw what Arizona State did last year. I think Arizona State has one of the 3 largest undergrads programs in the country. I believe they have the largest online program in the country. Arizona State is swimming in money. And if it's all about money, well, then who can emerge here in the next few years as the next great power? But
anybody.
Yeah.
Right. Whoever's got, you know.
Yes. I mean, what if Matt Ishbia didn't want to spend his $4 billion to buy the Phoenix Suns and Mercury and instead just said, I'm going to spend all this money on my alma mater, Michigan State? And he's already given them a lot of money. But I'm just saying, what if he literally was like, nah, I don't need to own an NBA team. You know what I need to do? I need to have my football and basketball teams playing for championships every single year. No one will be paying their players more money than us. Not even Ohio State in football, and not you name the school in basketball. You want to get paid in the Big Ten, you come to East Lansing. So just wanted to bring up the Womble Center, Rick.
Sounds exciting, David.
$242 million. Got a barbershop and a podcast center.
Look for Texas Tech coming to the top 20 near you soon.
Jeff Cameron in 25 minutes. He will join us. We'll talk some spring training baseball with Sam Peebles. He covers the Braves. Soren, Petro, JP Shadrick to talk plenty things NFL. Boy, were there a lot of moves yesterday. Both the Chiefs made a deal. Jags made a big cut. We'll talk all of it on the other side. Molly Maid, Scar Bar, Sleep Treatment Direct, the Diamond District, and even the Cape Coral Police Department, thank you. We're hopeful of a great 2025, still needing sponsors, so reach out to Miller and Moulton via X at that Mark Miller or the David Moulton, or text us at 21,000. But Miller and Moulton says thank you to our sponsors and to you, our loyal listeners.
American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net.
Gentlemen, as your wife mentioned getting new flooring, but you don't want to go through the hassle, well, go see the Floor Meisters in Naples next to Costco. They understand your time and money are important, so they'll make it as painless as possible. With a huge in-stock selection of carpet and Cortec, they can get you the floor your wife's been asking for. They carry wood, vinyl, carpet, and tile. If you do it yourself, no problem. They can handle that as well. So go see TJ at the Floor Meisters and tell them, just keeping it real.
Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS.
This is Miller and Moulton.
I do not. No, I think north out. But then again, I didn't think they'd beat Eastern Kentucky for the third time this year, because I think those two teams are pretty evenly matched, and they were down 11 at the half, but they came back and won. Rick, I have to admit I'm scared because you're like digitizing, and so I'm
You've frozen for like a second or two a few times, but it's come back real quick. So
well, and on my end, you're the one freezing. So yeah,
okay.
yeah. Unfortunately, my MiFi just needs decent internet to connect to, and I guess the internet here is not decent.
Are you going to be there tomorrow morning too?
Unfortunately, yeah.
Okay. Well, at least we'll know what to expect.
Yeah.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
21 minutes after the hour. Jeff Cameron to join us in a little more than 15 minutes time. Miller and Moulton. Mark off today and tomorrow. He's playing in his member guest outing. I heard he already ham and egged some money yesterday during the practice round, so he's upbeat. Looking good, feeling good. We'll see if it continues. Did you hear Scotty Scheffler give a press conference yesterday in which he said, yeah, I came into the Arnold Palmer with a lot of confidence. I got beat by a 10 handicapper in our match the other day. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He goes, well, I don't think it was straight up. I think it was involving strokes, but still, he said, so yeah, I'm really feeling it coming into this tournament. No Spieth, no Fowler. They didn't qualify, and they didn't get exemptions. And Jordan's not very happy about it, actually. So
he played pretty terrible in the fourth round last weekend.
Yeah, so did Ricky, who played worse. But yep. So Miller and Moulton, MillerandMoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. To review the football moves yesterday. Jags move on from really their only competent slot receiver, Christian Kirk, 28 years old, was entering the final year of a deal. They saved $10.7 million by cutting him. Raiders release Gardner Minshew. They take a nearly $11 million cap hit, but they do save $3 million, saying you're not part of our plans at all. They then sign Max Crosby to the biggest non-quarterback contract in NFL history, at least in terms of annual salary. 3 years, $106.5 million. That's $35.5 per year. That's $500,000 more per year than Justin Jefferson will be making with the Vikings. Now, remember, in Crosby's case, it's an extension. He's actually going to play 2 years on his existing deal. That's a 3-year extension, which takes him through 2029. And I believe Crosby will play that year at the age of 32. So one could argue this is the last contract that he'll be signing. We'll see if, in fact, he plays all 5 years, or is he a cut in his final year? 85% of Crosby's contract is guaranteed, by the way. That's a big percentage of an NFL contract being guaranteed. Seattle cut wide receiver Tyler Lockett, been with the team 10 years, number 2 all-time in every major receiving category behind only Steve Largent. They saved $17 million by getting rid of Lockett. But meanwhile, DK Metcalf said, yeah, I want out of here. It's obvious to me you're not going to sign me long-term. You might as well get rid of me now. Metcalf's got a year left on his deal. He's 27. He's going to make $18 million this year. So who out there wants to trade for DK Metcalf? And do you want to rent him for a year with no intention of signing him? Or are you going to trade for him and plan on signing him to a 3-4 year deal, of which he's going to want 25 plus million? I mean, just so you know, he ain't going to sign anything less than 3 for 75. I mean, and I don't even know if you can get him for 3 for 75. So think about that when you're contemplating acquiring DK Metcalf. Jets let go of Devontae Adams yesterday. Kansas City traded all-pro guard Joe Tui to the Bears. You know, sometimes they're actually telling the truth. You know, Ben Johnson was a lot of bluster when he took over the job in Chicago. But he also said, yeah, we got to upgrade this offensive line. Can't do anything until we take care of the offensive line. Well, what have they done in the last 2 days? They acquired a guard from the Rams and a guard from the Chiefs. And in Tui's case, they acquired one of the 3 best guards in the NFL. I mean, that can't be argued. And he's only 32 years old. And just because he had a poor Super Bowl at left tackle doesn't mean he's not an elite guard. Now, the guy they acquired from the Rams has battled injuries the last 2 years. Before that, he was a very good player. Both guys, I believe, are entering the final year of their contracts. They gave up a 6th-round pick this year for the Ram guard. They gave up a 4th-round pick next year for Joe Tui. That's some of the moves. Dak, you know, freed up some money, turned salary into a signing bonus, and the Cowboys have $36 extra million to deal with. If you're the Cowboys, you're going to spend that to sign Micah Parsons, or are you going to use that money to sign what's out there? Sounds like they're going to use that money to sign what's out there, because when asked, hey, how far down the road are you guys on a Micah Parsons deal? Cowboys said, not very. I don't understand them. I really don't. Every time they do this, and every time it costs them so much more money, and they end up signing a deal that is so non-salary cap friendly, I don't understand it. Isn't that the definition of insanity? So, Eagles re-signed Zach Bond a few days before he was going to be a free agent linebacker. They gave him $17 million a year for 3 years, first 2 years guaranteed. So that's pretty much what took place in the NFL yesterday. Oh, and 9 o'clock last night, the Chargers released Joey Bosa. He'll turn 30 in July. First 6 years, Hall of Fame worthy, to be honest. Last 3 years, can't stay healthy. Not as productive. I think 14 sacks total in the last 3 seasons. Last year, he showed a lot of toughness, though. He hurt his back early in the year, played through a back injury. Anybody who has a bad back knows, hell, it's tough to get up and go through your normal workday with a back injury. Try playing professional football with a back injury. But Bosa, they save, 25 and change by getting rid of Bosa? As of today, Bosa and Khalil Mack both headed the free agency. You got to figure Bosa wouldn't re-sign with the Chargers. I think there's still a chance Khalil Mack stays with the Chargers. But $91 million is the answer to the question, how much cap room do the Chargers now have after getting rid of Joey Bosa? Answer, $91 million. How about Rick Church? You play general manager of the Chargers. What would you give up for DK Metcalf?
Oh, the Chargers for Metcalf?
Yeah, they don't have weapons around Herbert. They don't. They need weaponry around Herbert. Okay. What would you go get DK Metcalf? He's 28 years old.
Well, absolutely, I would. I mean, but what
Okay.
what are you going to give up for him? Third, fourth round?
Well, but I'm just saying, what would you give up for him? Would you give up a third round pick?
Yeah, I'd give up a third round pick. If
Seattle would make that deal before the end of the segment. By the way,
absolutely.
Now you got to sign him, though. I mean, you got to take the Bosa money and sign him. I believe. I mean, I think if you're acquiring DK Metcalf, you're also committing to signing him to a 3-year extension. Remember, he's only making $18 million this year. He feels he's underpaid this year. So, he's going to want you to take care of what his contract is this year and then take care of the next 2-3 years. What I would do with Metcalf is I'd offer him 2 years, $50 million. A 2-year, $50 million extension. And I might find a way to give him a signing bonus to make his $18 million this year be a little bit more. Maybe it's 2 for 55. 5 up front, and then you make $25 million the next 2 years. He'll want more. If you want, we can add years and money, but I'm not going to guarantee any of it, so I can easily, dump him. I'd do that for DK Metcalf. I'd try to get him for a fourth instead of a third. I think you're being generous. But if you want to give up a third for DK Metcalf, Rick, I think you'll have a deal with the Seahawks before the top of the hour. And remember, it's 4:30 in Seattle. So you got to wake John Schneider up and get the deal done. And he's not going to be happy that you woke him up. That may cost you an extra round. Jeff Cameron is next.
For over 50 years, the Nolan family has been dedicated to protecting local families. Nolan Family Insurance is a second-generation independent agency that specializes in home, flood, auto, and boat insurance. They take the time needed to explain your coverage options and answer your questions so you can make an informed decision that's right for you. If you're looking for an agency that treats you like family, call 941-639-1122 or go to nolanagency.com. That's 941-639-1122. or nolanagency.com. American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net.
Wine glasses never fall over until you get a brand new rug.
Oh, no!
Ketchup bottles act normal till you're wearing a new shirt.
Oh, you kidding me?
And rocks slide peacefully on the road till the day you get a brand new windshield. Then they fly up off the road and attack without mercy. That's why new windshields from Glass Doctor come with our windshield protection plan. Unlimited repairs and one replacement for 12 months. Don't just fix it, protect it. Glass Doctor. A neighborly company.
Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Ooh. Ooh.
I'm getting voicemail for Jeff Cameron.
Okay. Well, okay.
I'll try him again right after we come out of break.
Okay.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Mark off for the rest of the week. No truth to the rumor that he was the 10 handicapper that took down Scotty Scheffler earlier this week as Scheffler was getting ready for the Arnold Palmer Invitational. Jeff Cameron scheduled to join us shortly. We're calling him. His phone's not ringing. That's what he's telling us. Okay, we've had that happen a couple times today. So Rick, good luck. He's apparently waiting by the phone. Sam, I know.
It didn't ring. It just went to voicemail. So.
No, I know. I'm just saying that
okay.
But the same thing happened when you called me earlier in the show. So for whatever reason, just, good luck. Call him right now. Sam Peebles will join us at the top of the hour. He covers the Braves for a living as our spring training tours, if you will, continue. And we'll talk plenty of football an hour or so from now. We'll check into Kansas City to Soren Petro, and then also Jacksonville with JP Shadrick. Both teams making moves yesterday, getting rid of players. And so a lot of that going on as teams get ready for free agency, have to get down under the cap, etc. Wednesday afternoon next week is when free agency officially begins. The legal tampering period begins Monday morning, Monday the 10th, Tuesday the 11th, and through lunch on Wednesday, you can legally tamper. And we all know what that means. Miller and Moulton, millerandmoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. Any luck?
No, but I left a voicemail and I said,
Wow, very weird. I will tell him to call us then.
Yeah, I left him the number, left a voicemail.
Well, but for whatever reason,
I rang it like 3 times. I didn't want to, pester him.
No, I understand. Well, it's weird though, and sorry to have to do this on the air. As you could tell, Mark not here. Rick Church producing and engineering back in our Southwest Florida studios. But also there's some stuff that went on off the top of the show today. We got disconnected for about 8 to 10 minutes. I think the problem originated where I am in Florence, Alabama, but also when we were trying to communicate, we were calling each other and our phone calls weren't going through. So anyway, it's been one of those mornings. So we appreciate you putting up with us here on Miller and Moulton. Jeff Cameron, he is, well, I'd say the best source when it comes to Florida State. At least I feel he is. Okay, warchant.com. Also, 93.3 FM middays. Follow him on X, the letter J Cameron Show, the letter J Cameron Show. Jeff, it's David. Mark is off. How are you?
I'm great, David. Good to talk to you, buddy.
All right. Is this exactly what Florida State wanted 2 years ago, or is there something here they didn't ultimately get in their compromise deal with the ACC?
It's pretty close to exactly what they wanted. It's I think pie in the sky. If you could have had everything aligned, they would have liked to have gotten out tomorrow. But realistically, with adults in the room having a conversation and competing lawsuits and the like, I don't know how anybody for Florida State side of things couldn't look at this and say it was an overwhelming victory. Florida State just did a bunch of teams a lot of favors, and they did themselves a huge favor, because if you go back, David, I know you know this, but for the listeners, going all the way back to February of 23, Michael Alford was talking in a Board of Trustees meeting about, how soon the SEC and the Big Ten would be receiving at least in the neighborhood of $30 million more in revenue than Florida State. And it was very frustrating that, for them in the ACC, Florida State's viewership data showed the Noles drew, 15% of the league's TV ratings, but were only paid 7% of the revenue. And I won't bore everybody all this, but basically he was saying we can't compete, if you're Florida State, with schools that they seek to compete with, which aren't, just ACC teams, but the SEC, because they would like to compete for national titles. And he kept talking to the ACC about, could we arrange something in which, if the ratings continue to be this way, we get a larger share. And they were told every time, around every turn, at every meeting, pound sand. We're not going to do anything. You're tied in. We've got you to 2036. We've got your grant of rights. If you try to leave, it's $120 million to exit, plus the grant of rights. We're looking in the neighborhood of $500 to $700 million. And oh, by the way, that grant of rights is ironclad. Good luck to you. And it was at that point that Florida State said, well, in that case, and they sued. And I go back to something that I think about with Michael Collins of the Board of Trustees. He was asked about the grant of rights. And everybody who heard that Board of Trustees meeting in August of 2023 thought it was pretty bold what they were saying. And his quote at the time to us at War Chant was, we have a handle on the grant of rights. We understand the document. We understand the position, our position on that document, and we have a legal argument for that document. And went on to basically say, in essence, David, this is going to work out for us. We're not worried about the grant of rights. We're worried about other facets of this lawsuit, but not the grant of rights. A lot of people made fun of Florida State for that. It was written about nationally. It was, at times, they were chided, and they were really seen as the bad actor of the ACC. But I always maintained that they were basically doing what they thought they had to do to compete in an ever-changing climate in college football. And how could Florida State be the bad actor when it was Greg Sankey and the SEC raiding other conferences, and later Petito and the Big Ten doing the same? There was you were playing a wicked game of musical chairs, and you were not going to have a chair if you didn't get out from under that contract and didn't get out from under the revenue disparity and give yourself a chance to be a free agent at the right time. And that's a very long-winded answer to, yes, they got everything they wanted when they filed the lawsuit.
All right. So we'll try to cover as much ground as we can here in about 8 or 9 minutes. So the one part that I'm unclear about, Florida State always gave the impression we have some place we can go. Now, we know the game that gets played publicly. The SEC and the Big Ten have to always say, we're not interested in expansion, blah, 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 until literally news breaks that they've grabbed so-and-so. Is Florida State convinced that 5-6 years from now, when this exit fee is under $100 million, that they have or will have a place to go?
100%. Yes. Yes, they are absolutely convinced of that. And David, I think they probably would have never filed the lawsuit if they didn't think that was the case. Or they would have been a little bit more reluctant, certainly. They went boldly into this thing.
Yep.
And rather brashly. And I think they did that with unwavering confidence that they have a landing spot. Yes.
Did Florida State, whether it just worked out this way or whether they were being egged on behind the scenes, I can't imagine that anybody could have done more for the University of North Carolina than Florida State. I mean, seriously. I mean, are they at least sending gift cards in the mail? I mean, something, because North Carolina has to have a huge smile on their face this morning.
David, I joked with my listeners that when we go up to Charlotte to cover the ACC kickoff in July, that Michael Alford and other officials at Florida State should walk in with a shirt that says "You're welcome." And, you know, I pictured this as a mob get together around a dinner and the hugs and the pats on the back and hey, you know, the whole thing.
Right.
And,
Yep.
I mean, I doubt they'll get their the big thank yous that they deserve at this point. I don't know. You know, you're right. North Carolina is a huge benefactor here. And I thought it was particularly funny that in the midst of all of this, while people were pointing fingers at Florida State, you found out that the cornerstone of the ACC, the bedrock of the ACC, North Carolina, in their own emails had been talking amongst each other about the work Florida State was doing and how around every turn it was uncovered that there were plenty of very powerful people at North Carolina who silently applauded Florida State's effort. And so for all the while that people said, oh, well, the ACC is this, it's that. Yeah, the ACC's basically cornerstone member wanted out as well. They just didn't want to do the labor and the hard work and take the arrows. So, yeah, a hearty thank you would be nice, but I doubt they'll get it.
Jeff Cameron, warchant.com, 93.3 middays in Tallahassee. You can follow him on X, the letter J, Cameron Show, the letter J, Cameron Show. All right, two things. Do you believe, and we have said this on our show for years, I'm pretty sure you've said it as well, but we have believed that this was going to be the last Big Ten contract that Ohio State and Michigan agreed to share money evenly with Indiana and Illinois and the like. I mean, which is essentially now what the ACC has put together. I mean, you've got to believe, right, that this is going to be the model that the elite in the Big Ten and the elite in the SEC try to follow, right?
I do, David, but it's interesting. I brought this up. I was interviewed recently, and I interviewed, I should say, Andy Staples of On3. And obviously, Andy, over the years, covered college football at a lot of stops and knows the game well. He argued with me about this. He said that he thinks that the commissioners of the Big Ten and the SEC have worked hard to find stability and to get their members to get along while they've gone ahead and conquered the sport and brought in record revenue, and that they don't want anybody shaking the boat. But I thought, well, that's great. We all don't want a lot of things. I don't think any of us wanted much of what's happened to college football in terms of realignment. But the reality is that greed has won the day, and it always does. It's about the money. And Ohio State has to be looking at the Purdues and Illinois of the world, just as Alabama would look at a Vanderbilt and say, really, I got to share what I'm doing for this conference with you at a full rate. Yeah, the door just got opened, one would think, but he argues he doesn't think it's going to happen. Now, I disagree. I agree with you, David. I think the Ohio States of the world and the Texases of the world even, and others will say, you do realize the cachet we're bringing compared to, say, Mississippi State.
Well, Mark, for the record, believes that Michigan holds the key, that if Michigan sides with Ohio State, the same deal will happen in the Big Ten. But if Michigan looks at Ohio State and says, no, this is not for the greater good, that he thinks Michigan will hold the cards, okay, as to whether or not the same deal happens in the Big Ten. I do want to ask you one other question. I believe recently Texas A&M announced that they were able to bring in $500 million of private equity. Florida State, within the last 12 months, has openly talked about having private equity. Florida State's not going to make Big Ten and SEC money over the next 5-6 years. Are they going to make up the difference by striking a deal with a private equity firm?
I don't think they want to do that, David. They have talked about it. I think with Tuesday's victory, that I don't know that they need to do that right now. Now, I will never say never. It's an ongoing arms race, and obviously Florida State will never have the pockets that a Michigan has, or a Notre Dame has, or a Texas A&M for that matter. And I hesitate to say they would never do something, because they are obviously hell-bent on competing at the highest levels for, titles and the like in college football. But I don't think they feel they have to go that route just yet. And I don't think they want to. You talk about, it's a slippery slope, and you kind of hand over the keys to the devil there a little bit. But I'll be interested to see if they do. This was something that they used as a talking point when they weren't real sure that the lawsuit was going to come to a settlement or a conclusion anytime soon. Right. And they had an awful lot of projects underway, including the football-only facility, the renovations to the stadium, and obviously they had the need to compete in NIL and the like. So these were kind of the talking points about if worse came to worse, they could go that route. But I don't feel like I get the sense they want to do that right now.
Jeff, thanks for making time for us. We appreciate it. All the best to you and the family, and hopefully we can talk before spring ball.
It's always a pleasure, David. Great to talk to you, buddy. Be well.
Jeff Cameron, middays in Tallahassee on 93.3. Also warchant.com. I think he's the best at covering Florida State. I know there's a few, but the reason I think he's the best is that he's willing to bash them when they're wrong. So that's why I like him. Jeff Cameron. Follow him on X at the letter J Cameron Show. The letter J Cameron Show. We will switch gears. A lot of football, a lot of money talk. Well, money may come up, but we're going to talk a little baseball. We've been every day having somebody who covers a major league team on to talk about a major league team. How about we talk a little Braves on the other side? Sam Peebles covers them. We'll do a few minutes with Sam. Soren, Petro in Kansas City. JP Shadrick in Jacksonville to talk about moves the Chiefs and Jags have made. In Jags' case, it's a brand new front office. Miller and Moulton, halfway home on this Thursday.
Miller and Moulton would like to thank the sponsors that, quite frankly, saved the show in 2024. Whether it was Floor Meisters, American Paint Supplies, Glass Doctor, Molly Maid, Cigar Bar, Sleep Treatment Direct, the Diamond District, and even the Cape Coral Police Department, thank you. We're hopeful of a great 2025, still needing sponsors, so reach out to Miller and Moulton via X at that Mark Miller or the David Moulton, or text us at 21,000. But Miller and Moulton says thank you to our sponsors and to you, our loyal listeners.
Do you have a sleep problem but don't want to wear a CPAP mask? This is Mark Miller for Sleep Treatment Direct. The mask wasn't working for me, and I didn't think I had an alternative. I do. We all do. They have such simple alternatives with greater success than the mask. Visit sleeptreatmentdirect.com. That's sleeptreatmentdirect.com. And if you are like me and your CPAP machine isn't working for you, it's time for a change. Call 239-444-1741. That's 239-444-1741. Sleep Treatment Direct. Sleep safe and sound. American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net.
Whether you're chasing peak performance, reigniting intimacy, or simply want to feel your best, Game Day Men's Health creates customized game plans to optimize your health. Call 239-427-3441 for our Bonita Springs and Naples location to set up your free testosterone test and consultation. Mention Miller Moulton Radio Show for 10% off your service. Find your maximum self with Game Day Men's Health, Bonita Springs and Naples, Florida. Call 239-427-3441 today.
Basketball's heating up the hardwood. What a great time to stop in at the Floor Meisters and look at their hardwood. A large selection to choose from, including Mirage hardwood flooring. Floor Meisters has the look and style you want. Mirage wood is grown and made in Canada from the finest quality wood flooring you'll find. And while you're in, ask to see the Petite Enfant collection. 5 custom colors made only for the Floor Meisters. So good it has a 35-year warranty. Floor Meisters, 6281 Naples Boulevard, next to Costco, or floormeisters.com.
Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS.
This is Miller and Moulton.
So you never got through to Jeff, right?
I did not. And when he picked me, he said my phone wasn't ringing, but it was kind of like, David, when I was trying to call your phone, it's like I didn't hear a ringing sound, but there was just kind of a long pause. And then if you would like to leave a message,
Right.
So
a question. Do you dial 1 when you're calling?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And I have no idea if it makes a difference or not, but I just texted Sam and said, hey, we're going to be calling you.
Okay.
We've had some phone issues. If it becomes 8:02 and you haven't heard from us, please call us.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay?
I mean,
and he just texted me back, sure. So he's waiting for your call, but in theory, if 4 minutes goes by, he'll be calling you and you'll see it ring.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's,
Right.
Yeah, but it's because clearly, I think with your phone was because of the problems you were having with your.
I think so too.
So it's weird.
But the same thing just happened with Jeff, so that concerns me.
Yeah, that's weird.
But yeah, clearly for those 8 minutes in Florence, Alabama, we were shut off from the world.
Imagine that in Florence, Alabama, of all places.
Come on now. The beautiful Tennessee River is right behind me. There's nothing wrong with Florence.
No, I don't. I mean,
I love small town America. I really do.
Yeah.
And I grew up near a big city and would prefer to live in or near a city. But I don't know. I think it's the time, and, I think it's growing up doing local TV in smaller markets. I think you learn to appreciate.
Yeah, I mean, the city I grew up in was about as small a market as you can have, but still have independent TV stations, which is Duluth, Minnesota.
There you go.
We have an ABC, NBC, CBS local news affiliate there, so
UMD. Okay,
UMD, Bulldogs, go Bulldogs. All right, I'm going to try calling Sam.
Okay, great.
Good to go.
All right. All right. It's my Jim Mandich impression for the morning. Oh, I miss the Mad Dog. He was awesome.
He's on a lot of the ESPN daytime talk shows.
No. That's Mad Dog Russo. I meant.
Oh, I thought that's what you're talking about.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, coming at you from the Floor Meister Studios. Floor Meisters, keeping it real. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Mark is off today and tomorrow. He beat Scotty Scheffler in golf earlier this week. Rumor has it he was the 10 handicap who took down Scheffler before the Arnold Palmer Invitational. Now he's trying to win money at his member guest, and he'll do that through the weekend. Rick Church is manning the phones and keeping the train on the tracks back in our Southwest Florida studios. Check him out, twitch.tv/Miller and Moulton. He's got the mood lighting going. Okay.
Yeah, check me out, man. Come on.
No truth to the rumor that it's Rick the Shadow Church.
I like that name.
Little bit of a shadow going on. All our guests join us on the American Paint Supplies Hotline, your one-stop shop for all your coating needs, including Sam Peebles, host of the Braves Dugout podcast, and he covers the Braves, part of the SB Nation umbrella for battery power on the SB Nation platform. Follow Sam on X, the letter S, Peebles Sports. S, Peebles, all E's, Sports. Sam, it's David. Good morning. How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Doing very well. All right. A year ago at this time, I thought there was no major league franchise that had been better run and was better set up for the next 3 to 4 years than the Braves. How come I don't feel that way today? Did last year on and off the field go as badly as I think it did?
Well, I will say there's probably some recency bias there, which is just human nature, just after a poor season last year with tons of injuries. But, you know, there's ways to measure bad luck and good luck as well if you look at expectancy stats versus on-field performance and things like that. And the Braves had quite a few players that had some pretty poor luck with the bat, not to mention an outstanding amount of injuries. To, you know, a Cy Young candidate out for the year, reigning MVP out for the year, all-star third baseman out for most of the year. The list goes on. And another thing that goes along with that is you just saw the Dodgers spend the most money we've ever seen any team spend, including, if you include inflation as well. So when you got those two factors going in, it makes total sense why the Braves don't look like the team that was set up really well for the next 3 to 4 years that they did last year. And trust me, you're not the only one that feels that way.
But is it, Sam, literally just a case of we just got to get our guys healthy? I mean, you're talking about Strider, you're talking about Acuna. Now they're going to miss their catcher for the first month plus of the season, who 2 years ago was an all-star. I mean, is it literally just a matter of, well, we just got to get healthy, we'll be fine?
Well, the Braves have traditionally not been a high-spending team, and last year was the most money they've ever spent. And if you include inflation, they in the past they never went over the luxury tax. They were over the second threshold last year, so they're spending tons of money. But what came with it is they put all their eggs in the basket of the players they already had. So when all of your money is on players that you already have, that can work out fantastic. But there's also a chance that it could turn out really poorly. We've seen it with the White Sox. The White Sox a few years ago poured a ton of money into their young players. None of their young players panned out, and now we look how bad the White Sox were last year. I'm not saying that's going to happen to the Braves. I'm just saying a handful of things can go wrong with the players that you put all of your eggs in the basket into, and you're going to have a poor season. And that happened. I think someone said it one way that's probably the best way that I could describe it is in 2023, we probably saw the top 10% performance we would have seen out of that squad. And then last year we saw the bottom 10% performance that we would have seen out of that squad. This upcoming year, it's probably going to be somewhere in the middle.
Well, Strider's a Cy Young candidate, and Acuna has already won an MVP and is one of the 5 best talents in the game, and he might be on a shorter list than that. But are they healthy? And if not, when realistically do they think they will be healthy?
That's a $1 million question, isn't it? So Ronald Acuna is scheduled to be back around May time frame. He wants to be back earlier. It's around the same for Spencer Strider, and he's ahead of schedule. But when you look at Ronald Acuna, he's also had an ACL injury before. And when he came back the next year, he was not 100%. We saw a huge increase in his strikeouts. We saw that he was not able to run as fast, which is a big part of his game. And so Acuna will be back on the field, but will he be 100%? That's the big question. And same with Spencer Strider. This is his second major surgery on his arm. Is he going to come back and be 100%? There's no way to predict that. And odds favor more so that they won't be 100%. So I hope that the Braves front office is not fully depending on that happening.
Talking Braves with Sam Peebles. He hosts the Braves Dugout podcast, also covers the Braves for Battery Power, which is part of the SB Nations universe. You can follow Sam on X, the letter S, Peebles Sports, S, Peebles Sports. Do they already regret not picking up the $8 million option on Travis d'Arnaud because of the injury to Sean Murphy, or no, they like their 2 prospects in the minors and one of them should be ready to play?
I would say no, just simply because as much as we love Travis d'Arnaud in Atlanta, the amount of money that he got from the Angels, the Braves would not have been wise to spend that money on him. He's a great veteran presence, but as far as his on-field performance, it was declining. And when you have guys like Sean Murphy, at the time it made sense because Sean Murphy, when he's healthy, is a top 3 catcher in the sport easily, top 3 catcher on the planet. And then Drake Baldwin is a top 25 prospect who's 24 years old that's ready to come up now. So in that situation, that's fine. And then with Sean Murphy, he's really only going to be out for predicted 4 to 6 weeks when the injury happens. So we're looking at he's only going to be out for maybe 2 weeks out of the season to start the season. Drake Baldwin's ready to come up. And then the Braves have a ton of veteran guys that they can pull, Sandy Leon, Kurt Casale, a bunch of those veteran guys that they can pull up to fill that backup catcher spot while they wait for Sean Murphy to come back. And that's a lot cheaper than $8 million, those minor league guys.
Braves have enough pitching. Not only have they had injuries, they've lost a guy here or there. The bullpen always seems to be a revolving door. It's performed, but it always seems to be a revolving door. I'm just curious, do the Braves have enough pitching?
Yes, and this is a very, apparently a hot take among fans. A lot of fans wanted the Braves to bring in a new starter, but the Braves had, and this isn't an opinion, this is mathematically a fact, the Braves had the best rotation in the National League and tied for the best rotation in Major League Baseball last year. Really, that was without Spencer Strider the entire time. So, and they lost Charlie Morton and Max Fried. Max Fried is a huge hit. Charlie Morton was their 4th or 5th best starter. So even with Max Fried gone and Charlie Morton gone, the Braves are still easily a top 10 rotation. Factor in that you've got for the past 10 years, the Braves have been drafting nothing but starting pitching essentially. And so they've got a ton of guys that they can come in and fill that 5th spot pretty well. We saw Grant Holmes last year, Ian Anderson's down there, Bryce Elder. AJ Smith-Shaw. The list goes on and on of pitching depth. And when you get to the 4th and 5th guy in the rotation, it really is just depth guys. And the Braves have that. As far as the bullpen, their top 4 guys can stand up with anyone in the league, but they are a little thin there. And once you start going down that list of the filling out the bullpen, the top half of the bullpen is elite. The bottom half of the bullpen is where I draw a question. Fortunately, bottom half of bullpens are really easy to find on the trade market.
And finally, Sam, their position players are almost all, if not all, locked in for the next 3-4 years, right? Basically the line, not that they're going to turn into the, Reds of the 70s where we all know who they are and where they bat and what have you. But the Braves position players are all signed for the next 3-4 years, aren't they?
Pretty much. Now, shortstop is not Orlando Arcia, but he's on such a cheap contract that the Braves could bring in someone and he could be a backup infielder. And then the main thing there is that, sure, all of them are not all-stars, but all of them are worth the amount of money that they are being paid. So what that means is, as time goes on and inflation catches up, the Braves position players are going to be below market value, which is going to give the Braves a lot of flexibility to spend money to fill other holes.
Sam Peebles covers the Braves, hosts the Braves Dugout podcast, covers the Braves for Battery Power, which is part of the SB Nation. Follow Sam on X, the letter S, Peebles Sports, S, Peebles Sports. Sam, thanks for doing this at this hour. We appreciate it. Safe travels around Florida. Hopefully we can do this again.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Sam Peebles, talking a little Braves on the west coast of Florida. What's that complex now? About 4 years old, 3 years old? The brand new complex for the Braves. All right. Done a lot of winning since they moved there. But it's funny, Braves, and Rick, you follow baseball closely, even though you're a Twins fan. You cover the AL more. But, it's funny, the Braves have kind of been pushed to the side. And they had been the best franchise in the American League this decade until last year. And the Braves have kind of been pushed to the side. Mets made it to the LCS. The Phillies won the East. Okay, the Dodgers spending all the money. Braves are going to be a tough out, Rick.
Well, it's the year, the 2023, right? They just owned the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
And then would they lose in the division round of the playoffs, I think, to the Dodgers?
Trying to think, was it the Dodgers or no, it was the Phillies. It's why they got Sale, because they felt they needed the lefty to go after Schwarber and Harper and the like. Okay,
That's
the Phillies beat them.
About baseball, you can have a season like that, and you know what? In the blink of an eye, you're out of the playoffs. And I think that's kind of forgotten how good they were in the regular season that year, right?
Well, I believe like in 21 when they won the World Series, I think they won 90 games. But in 22, they won 101 games, got beat by the Phillies in a division round. In 23, they won even more than that. I think they won 104 games.
Right.
Got beat by the Phillies in division round. All right. And then last year, all the injuries still made it as a wild card, lost to the Padres. So, they've had a pretty good 4-year run here, and everybody is lined up and ready to go if they can be healthy to line up and ready to go.
Yeah, a great run, but really not much to show for it.
Well, they got the one parade.
Well, they won.
Come on now. You're
right.
Team, you haven't had a parade in over 30 years. You take a parade.
I know.
I haven't.
The last time we did it was at the expense of the Braves. So
I was going to say, I haven't had a baseball or a hockey parade in a while. I'd take one. Just one would be fine. Miller and Moulton, thanks for listening.
For over 50 years, the Nolan family has been dedicated to protecting local families. Nolan Family Insurance is a second-generation independent agency that specializes in home, flood, auto, and boat insurance. They take the time needed to explain your coverage options and answer your questions so you can make an informed decision that's right for you. If you're looking for an agency that treats you like family, call 941-639-1122 or go to nolanagency.com. That's 941-639-1122. or nolanagency.com.
Basketball's heating up the hardwood. What a great time to stop in at the Floor Meisters and look at their hardwood. A large selection to choose from, including Mirage hardwood flooring. Floor Meisters has a look and style you want. Mirage wood is grown and made in Canada from the finest quality wood flooring you'll find. And while you're in, ask to see the Petite Enfant collection. 5 custom colors made only for the Floor Meisters. So good it has a 35-year warranty. Floor Meisters, 6281 Naples Boulevard, next to Costco, or floormeisters.com.
American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net.
Whether you're chasing peak performance, reigniting intimacy, or simply want to feel your best, Game Day Men's Health creates customized game plans to optimize your health. Call 239-427-3441 for our Bonita Springs and Naples location to set up your free testosterone test and consultation. Mention Miller Moulton Radio Show for 10% off your service. Find your maximum self with Game Day Men's Health, Bonita Springs and Naples, Florida. Call 239-427-3441 today.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Oh, boy. Oof. How you holding up?
Great. Doing good. Haven't even had any coffee.
Wow.
I thought I'd be hitting the coffee machine pretty hard this morning, but haven't felt it.
How is the coffee there?
We got this really fancy coffee machine now where the individual packets of different kinds of coffee you pop in and it makes individual cups. It's pretty good.
Okay. Good.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton. Text the guys what's in your mind at 21,000. That's 21000. And now, here's David Moulton.
21 minutes past the hour. Miller and Moulton, millerandmoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. Mark is off today and tomorrow. Rick Church producing and engineering, keeping the train on the tracks. At least if my internet is working in Florence, Alabama, he can keep the train on the tracks. Otherwise,
in the shadows.
Right. In the shadows of the Southwest Florida studios. Check them out. Twitch.tv/Miller and Moulton. Just had Sam Peebles on talking Braves. Sam and all our guests joining us. American Paint Supplies Hotline, your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. All right. We have an update from information earlier in the show. We were talking, Rick, a possible DK Metcalf trade. For those that don't know, DK Metcalf informed the Seahawks yesterday, hey, we've been negotiating for 2 weeks. It's pretty obvious. We ain't going to strike a deal. I got a year left on a contract. You might as well trade me now. And the Seahawks are like, yeah, okay. Now, they were annoyed because yesterday in Seattle was supposed to all be about Tyler Lockett. You know, they were releasing him, but they were doing so with everybody saying good things about one another. He's been a Seahawk for 10 years. He's number 2 on the receiving list behind only Steve Largent. So the Seahawks were annoyed that DK's people let the word out yesterday to kind of rain on Tyler Lockett's parade. But the Seahawks are not denying that, yeah, we're shopping DK Metcalf. I said that if you gave the Seahawks a 3rd-round pick, they'd make the deal. Turns out I was wrong. According to Diana Rossini, Rick, in the last half hour, DK wants $30 million a year from his next team, and the Seahawks want a 1 and a 3. Well, I don't think you can get a 1 and a 3 for a guy who's going to be a free agent in a year. And nobody's given up a first-rounder, even though this isn't the greatest draft for receivers. You're not giving up a first-rounder for even a 27-year-old DK Metcalf. I don't believe. So I think a 1 and a 3 is unrealistic. At most, I think you can get a 2. Maybe you get a 3 and something else. But DK's looking for 30. I think I can work around that. Here's what I would propose to DK's folks. I'm going to sign you to a 4-year extension for $130 million. That's 32 and a quarter a year, 32 and a half a year. Looks pretty good on paper, doesn't it? Here's really what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a $10 million signing bonus so that your $18 million salary this year is actually you taking home $28 million. And then I'll give you your 30 for the next 3 years. By the way, the 4th year, not a dime guaranteed. You and I both know you ain't going to see any of that money. But it looks good on paper. You and your agent got your 32 and a half. You're going to get $100 million, by the way. In 4 years from us, you're going to get $100 million, and really you're going to get $128 million or $118 million. I mean, you're going to get 29 and a half a year from us for the next 4 years. By the way, by us walking away from you, do you know what my salary cap hit is 4 years from now? $2.5 million. That's all the dead money I have on my cap. So, Rick, I get DK Metcalf for when he's 27, 28, 29, and 30. I'll pay him $30 a year for 28, 29, and 30. I'll give him a $10 million signing bonus on top of his $18 million salary this year. So he's going to make 28, 30, 30, and 30. And then he's 30 years old, and I walk away from him. and it cost me $2.5 million.
But what obligation, David, if a team wants to trade for him as like a 1-year rental, what obligation are they under to extend him?
None.
None.
Now
Okay.
you run the risk though of was he going to show up for camp, and my guess is he'll play, but he may do like Jamal Chase. Jamal Chase showed up for the opener last year. I mean, there's no guarantee DK Metcalf shows up for much of camp if you don't sign him to something. I mean, I think you got to give him a bonus check of some kind. He's going to make $18 million this year, and he is underpaid at $18 million. I mean, he is
big time.
Right. By the way, quick sidebar. Once again, it shows what an amazing job the Tampa Bay Bucks have done. I mean, they're getting Mike Evans for what? Less than 23 a year? They got an extension with Mike Evans for 21 a year. And they have gotten 2 contracts from Baker Mayfield, one for $10 million, and then after he has a terrific year and wins a playoff game, all right, they get a 3-year extension for $100 million total compared to what everybody else is paying for their quarterbacks. I mean, you can't say enough about the contracts that the Bucs have gotten done here in the last 2 years.
That's about as well-run an organization as there is in the NFL right now, no doubt.
I mean, they're not the best, but in terms of on-the-field product, but my goodness, have they gotten good value with their contracts lately. All right, so that's apparently the word from Diana Rossini. DK wants 30. Hey, we all want 30, right? But the Seahawks are asking for a 1 and a 3. I think that's bat blank crazy with a guy with a year left on his contract. If he had 2 years left on his contract, you could get some real value for it. 27 years old, 2 years left, you could get something for him. But, the Niners held on to Debo till he had a year left. Now the Seahawks held on to DK till he had a year left. I think you lose a lot of leverage in that year.
And what did the Commanders give up for Debo? Was it a 5th round pick?
I believe it was a 5th rounder. Yeah. Now I could argue.
When you asked earlier and you said about the 3rd, and I said a 3rd round pick. I think personally, the NFL draft picks are one of the most overvalued commodities in all of sports. I mean, are you going to tell me that a Debo Samuel, when he's in the right headspace, I guess I would say is one of the best receivers in the NFL, that you wouldn't take him if he was available in the 5th round?
You would, but then again, a 5th round pick's not making $18 million, and that's what Debo's making also. So yes, you give up the 5th rounder, but you have to assume his salary, okay, as opposed to a 5th rounder who would make $750,000.
And he's probably underpaid at 15 too, right? Or 18.
Well, I don't think so, because I think Debo's a lot like Joey Bosa, who just got cut. Debo had a monster 2021. His last 3 years have been injury prone, a lot of drops. I can debate you Debo Samuel now versus Debo 3 years ago. The same with Joey Bosa. Also, Debo 29, DK 27. And to someone in the Twitch chat room, Johnny Mack, who said, you said out loud that he's underpaid at $18 million. Hey, I'm not making the NFL salary scale. Okay. But with what wide receivers are getting paid, DK Metcalf's a 1. Now, he may be a bottom half of the league number 1 wide receiver, but DK Metcalf's a 1. And even if you think he's an elite 2, well, Godwin is making that kind of money. And DK Metcalf's better than Chris Godwin. So, yeah, I do think that DK's current deal has him making less than market value. Yes. All right. Quick sidebar. So, Happy Gilmore 2. It's come out. It's going to be released on July 25th. I know we just had the Oscars and we talked about how most of us haven't gone to see a movie in a while. Happy Gilmore 2, July 25th. Here's who we have confirmed is in the movie. Nicholas, Scheffler, DeChambeau, Keegan Bradley, John Daly, Tony Finau, Ricky Fowler, Brooks Koepka, Rory Sabatini, Colin Morikawa, Corey Pavin, Xander Schauffele, Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, Lee Trevino.
Wow.
And Will Zalatoris. I can confirm that Vern Lundquist is in the movie. So Happy Gilmore 2, July 25th. That's who we know of. What people are most wondering is, Tiger? Hello? Tiger? Boy, if I was Tiger, I would have. I know Tiger doesn't have to beg for anything, but if I was Tiger, I would have called Adam Sandler and said, "Come on, dude, I want to be in this." So just throwing that out there. Happy Gilmore 2, July 25th. And that is what we can confirm is part of the cast. Soren Petro, next.
Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. Sleep problem but don't want to wear a CPAP mask? This is Mark Miller for Sleep Treatment Direct. The mask wasn't working for me, and I didn't think I had an alternative. I do. We all do. They have such simple alternatives with greater success than the mask. Visit sleeptreatmentdirect.com. That's sleeptreatmentdirect.com. And if you are like me and your CPAP machine isn't working for you, it's time for a change. Call 239-444-1741. That's 239-444-1741. Sleep Treatment Direct. Sleep safe and sound.
Basketball's heating up the hardwood. What a great time to stop in at the Floor Meisters and look at their hardwood. A large selection to choose from, including Mirage hardwood flooring. Floor Meisters has a look and style you want. Mirage wood is grown and made in Canada from the finest quality wood flooring you'll find. And while you're in, ask to see the Petite Enfant collection. 5 custom colors made only for the Floor Meisters. So good it has a 35-year warranty. Floor Meisters, 6281 Naples Boulevard, next to Costco, or floormeisters.com.
American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Disco. Two Utes. Excuse me? Two Utes. I don't think he is yet, Irish football, but I think he's close. Soren, Petro.
Soren is all set to go.
Great. Whew. Feeney, are we talking about in Florence? A month ago when I stayed, 3 weeks ago, I stayed at a hotel across the street, was a Chinese buffet. So of course I had to hit it. And yeah, they had a couple things that were okay, but yeah, not ideal. But I still had to give it a shot.
Can't go wrong with a Chinese buffet.
Well, just for this, amount of, I mean, I had 6 plates. No dessert, by the way. No dessert.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton. Text the guys what's in your mind at 21,000. That's 21000. And now, here's David Moulton.
22 minutes till the top of the hour. JP Shadrick will join us then. Jags making moves. Heck, since the last time we talked to JP, they got a new coach, they got a new GM. They just got Christian Kirk. A lot to catch up on with JP Shadrick. Will do so at the top of the hour. Last time we talked to our next guest on the American Paint Supplies Hotline, your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. Soren Petro was, getting ready for the Chiefs to win their 4th Super Bowl in the last 5 years. And, things didn't go as planned. Soren, it's David. Thanks for joining us. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am fine. The last time they got beat in the Super Bowl this way, they made bold moves on their offensive line, but they got rid of the guys who weren't performing and replaced them. How surprising was it to you and Chiefs Nation that they got rid of Joe Thuney?
Not that surprising. I mean, I think, for a lot of the fans, I think the ones that don't really dive into the salary cap and the inner workings, be like, hey, good player. Why'd you trade him? I don't get it. I don't understand it. But I think the bigger surprise was probably putting the franchise tag on Trey Smith, because the Chiefs really didn't have the cap room to carry a $23 million player. And so we knew there were going to be some changes. Now, look, Patrick Mahomes' contract is set up where every year he's got a large roster bonus that can be converted. So they always have kind of an emergency go-to spot where they can create a lot of cap room just by giving Patrick Mahomes a big check up front. His contract similar to the way Tom Brady always structured his back in the day. So you knew there was a place to go and get the money, but you also know that they are, I've been paying a lot of guys at the top of the food chain, which is not something you can normally do with a high priced quarterback. You mentioned the Bucs Super Bowl. One of the things they did was go get Joe Thuney and make him the highest paid guard in football. This past offseason, they made Creed Humphrey the highest paid center in football. Chris Jones, the highest paid defensive lineman in the history of football. You do that time and time again, and eventually you run out of money. And so they've got other players, Nick Bolton, Justin Reed, that are free agents that are still very good players and frankly young. Justin Reed's only 28 going into his 3rd contract. Nick Bolton's only 24. But at some point, there's only so much money you've got when you pay the quarterback. So I don't think it was a big shock that They moved Tooney once they put the franchise tag on Trey Smith. You figured somebody would probably be gone because being the most expensive team in football from guard to guard isn't usually a recipe for success, particularly when you have the kind of problems you do at left tackle.
I say this in a very complimentary way. The Chiefs have had no problems making the tough decision. They traded Tyreek. They let an elite corner go. Now they make a guy who was the team MVP and graded out as one of the top 3 guards in the league over the last 2 years. They let him go. All right. I mean, is this approach as well received with the fan base and the media in Kansas City as, quite frankly, I receive it from afar?
It's received better than I think most people might imagine because the Chiefs dominate the landscape so much that you just can't give people enough Chiefs in this town. And so in the off season, I think the fans, instead of it being a labor of pain, like most teams, when you start talking salary cap, you're usually talking about a team that hasn't done well and has all these problems, and people just don't want to hear it. You can't give people enough Chiefs right now, so they kind of become capologists and get it a little bit. I mean, I think the way I phrased it, and I think the way a lot of people look at it is, which would you rather have, 33-year-old Joe, or soon to be 33-year-old Joe Tooney, or 26-year-old, or soon to be 26-year-old Trey Smith, and a 4th-round pick, right? And probably what will end up being $10 million extra in cap room this year. And so I think when you look at it, I mean, that's really the choice that the Chiefs made. It's not like, wow, Joe Tooney, good player, we want to get rid of him. It was, we can only have so much money tied up in the offensive line. We can only have so much money tied up in the interior line. So who do we want to give it to? And look, I can tell you, I've talked to people at the Chiefs. I mean, they love Joe Tooney. They don't like giving him up, but you mentioned the corner. They didn't like having to give up Charvarius Ward. They're not going to like walking away from Justin Reed. They didn't like giving up Tyreek Hill, although Tyreek Hill, was a big part of the draft that really turned things around. Getting 3 picks for him is a big part of how they restock their defensive backfield. So, they know it's a necessary evil. They know it's a part of the game. It's why Andy Reid, late in the season starts telling guys, look around. This is going to be one of the last times we're all together, for the Super Bowl. They know it's when they're playing in that. They said, spend your time, take your time, know everyone who's here, take in the sights, the moments, because we'll never be together again. Like, the football doesn't work that way. And so, they're aware of it. And to their credit, they've made tough decisions. In some ways this year, they probably should have made a couple more tough decisions, but I think they overextended themselves a little bit in an effort to try to win 3 Super Bowls in a row. They got very close, at least very close by getting to the Super Bowl, not in the game, but, and now they're having to make the hard decisions to start making sure that they don't waste a year, 2 years, 3 years of Patrick Mahomes' career in Kansas City. They don't ever want to be so top heavy that they've got a team that can't compete when they've got the best quarterback in football under center.
Soren Petro, middays, Sports Radio 810 in Kansas City. Follow him on X, Soren, Soren, Petro, Soren, Petro. They can't be carrying Kelsey's full contract here next week, can they? I mean, he got a $14 million roster bonus and a $19 million cap hit. I mean, he's got to play ball here, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's it's one of the reasons why I didn't think he'd be back. The structure of the contract, the fact that there's only $2.5 million of a dead hit, seemed to me like when they kind of gave him more money up front last year, that maybe they were preparing, maybe they knew, maybe Travis Kelce and the Chiefs had talked about that last year would be his final season. $19 million, he's going to count against the cap. He's going to get paid $17 million in cash. And like I said, there's an easy out if you wanted to. If you wanted to cut him, you're going to save a lot of money against the cap, and you'd be able to get back out into free agency. But he's one of those obviously unique players that is worth more than just what he can bring on the football field. I mean, I don't think he's going to get, $19 million if you put him out on the free agent market. Is somebody going to give him 1 year, $19 million? No, he's not going to get that number. But for this organization, for this team, his leadership, what he brings to the organization, I think it's worth it to carry more. I think that's the decision they've made. I would probably be, and I think Travis Kelce's been great for the team. I have nothing negative to say about him, but I would probably be a little more ruthless. I think Bill Belichick would be a little more ruthless. I think the Patriots would walk and say, if you're not producing the numbers, if the numbers say you got to go, we'll make that move. And I think the Chiefs and Andy Reid don't go quite that far. I mean, I think they've done a lot of things the way the Patriots did in trying to make sure, like I said, they've walked from other players that were difficult decisions before. But, I think Kelsey is, probably after Patrick Mahomes, the guy that they see as the second most important in this run. And so I think they feel like, look, if he's going to play, he's going to play for our team. And there's something to be said for building the chemistry. I know, Tom Brady walked away by most people's account because he didn't have fun and they weren't giving him weapons and the things he wanted to do. And I think that's something that Andy Reid has always felt was important, was to make the game fun for the players and, create that culture, create that atmosphere where guys like coming to work, like coming to the building. If you look at the NFLPA study, they don't score well for training room, for the training staff, but they get an A+ for the head coach. And I think that's part of it. Look, money is what every player wants, but if the money's close, you want a chance to win and you want a good environment. And the Chiefs create that, and I think they see Travis Kelce as part of creating that environment.
Listen, I'd rather have Joe Thuney next year than Travis Kelce, to be brutally honest with you. I think one's got much more left to give. Also, Mahomes is underpaid. I mean, he's underpaid by 15, 20 million a year. Right? I mean, so he's taken less and structured his contract in a way where he's the bank that keeps on giving. I mean, can he pull his buddy aside here and say, hey, man, you got that $100 million podcast. We need you to take a hit here.
Well, and I think when you mentioned Joe, I think that was the decision between Trey Smith and Joe Thuney, was which guy do you want to keep and which guy's going to give you more over the long haul. I mean, I think Joe Thuney will be pretty healthy, and I think he'll do a great job for the Bears. But, there's only so many players you can keep. And I think Travis Kelce was listen, I'm with you. Like I said, I would have been a little more cold and said, okay, I think we can replace 80%, 75%, 90%, maybe as a player, 100% of what he is. You can't replace what he is in the locker room to that team, but we can do that. And I just don't think, I think they value him more than just what the raw football abilities are.
Talking Chiefs with Soren Petro, Sports Radio 810 in Kansas City. Follow him on X, Soren Petro, SorenPetro. All right. So they need 2 tackles and a guard, correct?
I mean, Juwan Taylor gets a lot of penalties, and that is a problem. But when he doesn't get a penalty, he's an effective pass blocker. This will probably be his last year, and that's the other thing, big picture-wise, is they're going to need to replace him. There's other guys that are coming up. Trent McDuffie and George Karlaftis will be headed into their 4th year, so 5th year options have to be laid out. They'll want to put extensions out to them. But yeah, they now have to replace left guard and left tackle. And I think they've drafted 4 players in the last 2 years. Wanya Morris in the 3rd round, Kingsley Suamataia in the 2nd, Hunter Norzad, C.J. Hansen in the 5th and 7th rounds. One of those guys is, and I think it'll be Kingsley Suamataia, the guy who failed at left tackle last year, who will probably be the replacement at left guard. And then they've got something they've really been trying to do since Eric Fisher got hurt, and that's replace left tackle. They solved it for a couple of years with Orlando Brown. Then he asked for way too much money. Chiefs offered him a really good contract. He said no. They pivoted and gave the money, to I can't remember who it was, where they went with that time, but they walked away from him. He ended up taking less money to go to the Bengals. He made a bad decision because he could have got a better deal with the Chiefs. And he was just a solid, okay left tackle. So then came Donovan Smith, and then Kingsley Suamataia. They have not been able to really solidify that spot for probably about 5 years. And so whether it's Ronnie Stanley in free agency, whether it's going back into the draft and late in the draft, 7 offensive tackles went before they picked. They had a number of them graded as first rounders, but they usually don't last. Guys that you can just plug in at left tackle and go don't last to pick 31. And so they're faced with the dilemma that they've been facing for the last several years, and there isn't a ready-made answer that's out there. There's some big names, like I said, but Ronnie Stanley usually doesn't play all the games. And so that's probably the best option out there. But do you want to tie up a bunch of money in a guy that is not going to be hurt, who's 30 years old? That's not usually the direction the Chiefs look to go.
All right, Soren, final point from me. I believe they're going to make a big draft day move up. They moved up, 17 spots for Mahomes? I keep seeing the Dolphins at 13 and the Chiefs at 31 as perfect trade partners. And that KC moves up, the D linemen go early, the tackle run maybe just starts, whether it's Will Campbell or the kid from Texas or what have you, the kid from Ohio State. I think the Chiefs can get a plug-and-play tackle if they move up to where the Dolphins are. They're right. They can't sit at 31 and get a plug-and-play tackle. Do you think the Chiefs make another big Thursday draft day move to get a plug and play tackled. You know, the Bucs got Tristan Wirfs at 14. I think the Chiefs, if they get to 13, can get a plug and play guy.
Yeah, I think last year we talked a lot about where they go up and get Joe Alt. He was the son of a former great Chief and John Alt, and that seemed like and a guy that you knew could play left tackle, even though he played right tackle for the Chargers. It seemed like, okay, hey, this is the kind of move. Or, Amarius Mims was another guy that was, battled injuries but tested really well. And looked the part of the Kansas City Chiefs left tackle. And so we thought, oh, maybe he'll be there. I think he went at 21 and the Chiefs didn't make a move. There's a couple things working against him. One, Brett Veach said, look, free agency this year is going to have to be the draft for us, which means they've got a lot of spots to fill. I mentioned some of the other players that are going to be leaving that they've got to try to figure out how to replace. And they don't have that many draft picks. They have a first, a second, 2/3. They've got the Titans' third-round pick from trading L'Jarius Sneed last year, another corner that they moved on from in the past. And then they've got a fourth and 1/7. So and they picked up a fourth, but that fourth from the Bears doesn't come in until 26. So they've got a limited number of picks. So they don't have a lot of ammunition to move up, and they've got a lot of spots that they need to fill. And then what the Chiefs value most at offensive tackle is arm length. And there's a reason why you see tackle/guard next to so many of these players. Campbell from LSU had 32-inch arms. The Chiefs haven't drafted a tackle with sub-34-inch arms in the entire Brett Veach era. So there's some guys at 33 and 7/8 that look, like they could play that part, but there are also guys that kind of project into that 31 to second round range where maybe they could get there. So I don't think there's a guy. Even the kid from Missouri who tested incredibly well, his arm length is like 33.5 inches. And that has kind of been, they will not go below 34. Kingsley Suamataia was 34 and 1/8. They went with him last year and it didn't end up working. And they have historically taken guys with 35.5, 36 plus inch arms. And so I don't think now maybe they're going to change because like I said, Wanya Morris and Kingsley Suamataia haven't worked out. So maybe they'll value it differently. But they just don't have a lot of resources to try to move up. So, look, Brett Veach has only traded down once, and it was only a little ways, and it didn't work well. Otherwise, he's traded up time and time again. So history backs up your theory, and I won't fall out of my chair if that's what happens. But they will be doing it for a player that's different than what they would usually be making a move like that for.
Soren Petro, Sports Radio 810 in Kansas City. Follow him on X, Soren, Soren, Petro, Petro. Soren, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Have a great offseason.
Yeah, thank you. It's always my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Soren Petro, kind enough to join us once again here on Miller and Moulton. 5 picks in the first 4 rounds. I don't know. I got to move up and get a plug and play tackle. I got Patrick Mahomes. That's me. JP Shadrick is next. Miller and Moulton are very grateful to you, the listeners, for making us one of the highest rated shows for men, because the working man is one of the toughest demos to reach, and we do. Great sponsors like Floor Meisters, American Paint Supplies, Glass Doctor, Sleep Treatment Direct, Game Day Men's Health, and Molly Maid recognize that, and we thank them. And if you own a business and working men are your clientele, the most cost-effective way to reach them is through us. Text Miller and Moulton at 21,000 or directly via X at that Mark Miller or the David.
American Paint Supplies for nearly 30 years is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net.
Basketball's heating up the hardwood. What a great time to stop in at the Floor Meisters and look at their hardwood. A large selection to choose from, including Mirage hardwood flooring. Floor Meisters has a look and style you want. Mirage wood is grown and made in Canada from the finest quality wood flooring you'll find. And while you're in, ask to see the Petite Enfant collection. 5 custom colors made only for the Floor Meisters. So good it has a 35-year warranty. Floor Meisters, 6281 Naples Boulevard, next to Costco, or floormeisters.com.
Whether you're chasing peak performance, reigniting intimacy, or simply want to feel your best, Game Day Men's Health creates customized game plans to optimize your health. Call 239-427-3441 for our Bonita Springs and Naples location to set up your free testosterone test and consultation. Mention Miller Moulton Radio Show for 10% off your service. Find your maximum self with Game Day Men's Health, Bonita Springs and Naples, Florida. Call 239-427-3441 today.
Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS.
Honey, you want to come out? I haven't seen you since Glass Doctor installed our custom shower enclosure.
No thanks.
Well, you can't keep eating breakfast in the shower, and laminating your magazines is getting expensive. You remember we have guests coming over tonight, right?
Oh, I'm sure they'd love to see the shower.
It's our neighbors, and I highly doubt they want to be hanging out in our bathroom.
The shower's so good, you'll never want to leave. Visit glassdoctor.com today and schedule an appointment online.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Listen, I know you're not going to be impressed, okay, but I am the one responsible for getting you on the air via the computer. It involved 2 clicks of 2 different icons, and I am very impressed with myself that I was able to do it, okay?
Congratulations. It's great to be on with you, Dave. I'm glad you could click and make that work.
Exactly. It took years, if not decades of training to be able to get me to the point where I could get you on the air and change the graphics so that the screen worked. And between the 2 of us, and that's Rick Church in the top left corner,
hey, Rick.
who's filling in for Mark, we look like we're both fighting the Ukraine-Russia war in 2 different bunkers. Okay, don't we? Okay.
Dave, blink 3 times if you're in trouble.
Right. Okay. Blink 3 times if we're dropping a bomb. Right.
And by the way, Jay, he was just exaggerating a little bit. It actually was about 12 seconds on the phone with Mark Miller at 5:58 this morning that got him the training to get you on. But we're still impressed with him. We're still impressed.
It started yesterday, and I had to finish it at 5:58 a.m. this morning.
Yeah, he said push this button and then push this button.
The end. Yeah.
The end. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Hey.
Here we are. Alas. How's the shoals, Dave?
How's the what?
The shoals, Muscle Shoals. You're in the shoals area.
Florence,
have you ever heard of, you ever been there before?
Yeah, I have. I was here 3 weeks ago. The Tennessee River is beautiful right behind me. Got the dam. It looks beautiful. By the way, they got us at the Renaissance something in Spa. Okay. I don't know if the ASUN realizes they're paying for this, but
somebody's going to get the bill.
Oh, let me tell you, free buffet and 20% gratuity and everything. Yeah.
We got a workout facility there, Dave.
Oh, who cares?
I don't know. I have no idea where it is. Yeah.
I'm assuming so. Okay. Actually, I did see it, and I went, "Oh, that's where they'll be." Yeah.
Oh man, that's a good town. Florence downtown's cool.
I like it.
Yeah,
I like Florence.
That main street with the restaurants and stuff.
Yeah.
I forget the name of it. And then,
by the way, I saw that restaurant you told me about. Drove right by it.
Cool.
Yeah, didn't stop, but I said, "Oh, that's what he was talking about, right there."
It hasn't moved in a number of years, so it'll still be there.
I have to admit, driving the whole, length, if you will, of Alabama, from the south. I mean, but everything's like, 2 hours, or 90 minutes. It's like 2 to here, 90 to here, 90 to here. It worked. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Ain't much between it. You're out in the middle of the country.
No. Well, it's the old joke about, Pennsylvania. You got Philly and Pittsburgh, and in the middle's Alabama. I mean,
yeah, pretty much.
Yep. But thanks for doing this.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Anytime. Glad to do it.
About 30 seconds, fellas.
Thank you.
Somebody has to rein the show in, JP. Goodness knows it's not going to be me.
Why? Why do you have to?
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, coming at you from the Floor Meister Studios. Floor Meisters, keeping it real. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Mark off today and tomorrow. He's winning money at his member guest. Rumor has it he's the 10 handicap who beat Scheffler leading into the Arnold Palmer Invitational. We'll confirm that on Monday. Miller and Moulton, millerandmoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. Rick Church manning things back in our Southwest Florida studios. If you're watching, twitch.tv/Miller and Moulton. Rick is in the Kiev bunker on the left. I am in the Kiev bunker on the right. That's an allusion to our lighting, which leaves a little bit to be desired. JP Shadrick is front and center on our twitch.tv screen, and he's only doing this because he's bored. See, he doesn't have any Jags pre and post to do. He doesn't have any college football to do on Touchdown Radio. He doesn't have any NFL to do on Westwood One. Baselli abandoned him on his regular Jags shows to take a promotion, whatever. So JP's bored, and he joins us to talk a little Jags and life in the pursuit of happiness. How are you?
I'm doing well. Good morning. And I got to say, the lighting in your bunker, Dave, you haven't looked better in years. You look great. It is amazing.
Yes, we've held off on the bombing for another hour, okay? And then I have no idea what's going to happen. Listen, since we last spoke, a lot's happened. New coach, new GM. Baselli not just, was offered a promotion, took it, but he seems to have a lot of meat on the bone and teeth with this job. Like, I get the sense, JP, that he has more skin in the game with the Jags than even Chris Spielman has in his role with the Lions. Is that a fair assessment?
I think that's probably a fair one. Now, on paper, it'll say, hey, he's in charge of all the football operations. So travel, the training room, everything that's not picking the roster, right? But he'll have a seat in the room, and they'll lean on his expertise and his experience as a player and being around the NFL for a long time. So, yes, he does have skin in the game big time. And now the final decision, they haven't said, hey, the big question's been who has final say, who has the final vote, and they're not going there. So, but I would imagine that it will be a team effort to get that done, but he's on that team. There's no doubt about that. But it's Liam Cohen's organization. He's been fair about that too. Tony has said that a number of times. I was thinking, hey, maybe he's the culture guy and all this. He's setting the pace. No. Tony's like, no, that's Liam Cohen's culture.
Okay, so basically then the Jags have set this up kind of the way the Rams and the Seahawks, the way the Seahawks had it set up under Pete Carroll. It was Pete's organization, but John Schneider held the job as GM. Les Snead is the GM of the Rams, but everybody knows Sean McVay is calling a lot of the shots concerning the Rams. Is that basically how the Jags have set this up?
It seems like that should be what it is. Now there's three prongs, right? I mean, it's the head coach, it's the GM, and it's the EVP, Tony Baselli. So that's how they're going to set it up.
Okay. Now you and Tony, you're friendly. You literally did multiple shows a week with Tony for years. I think football wise how he thinks, and also what has bothered him about this franchise in recent years.
Oh, do I?
Okay. Can it be summed up in one word? Toughness?
It's a good start. Big people and toughness and the mindset that goes with playing that style of football. They haven't been able to do that. When they can't get 2 yards or yard, that's bad. And they can't stop the run on defense in the middle. I mean, that's where it's going to begin, I think, for him. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to pick somebody there at number 5, if somebody's different there, a receiver, something weird. But in order to rebuild the lines, at some point you have to draft guys that play on both lines, so including in the first round. So
JP,
we'll see. Yes.
Come on, JP. I know the games you did last year. How can the Jags not take Mason Graham at 5? Mason Graham is a dude and is going to be a dude for 10 years. And you guys gave up 6 yards a carry last year? I mean, don't you have to just get on your knee and hope that he falls to 5? Because to me, he seems like the first choice on the Jags board.
It seems like it to all these mock drafts too. I mean, it's a good solid fit, right? I mean, it fills a need. It's a guy who can play at a high level and has the mentality to go with that. So as of right now, I mean, let's see what they do in free agency too, Dave. I mean, that's coming up next week. I don't think they're going to sit by the wayside and just let some of these guys go by either in free agency. They do have some cap space. They've created a little bit more as of the news of yesterday. So I think they'll cherry pick some guys that can come in and at least get them a couple years of service. So we'll see if it's a defensive tackle or not. I could see like a safety. I could see something like that because they need some guys that can come in right away. A guard probably too.
So you think they'd spend money on, Javon Holland with the Dolphins? You think they would spend money on someone like him? Do you think – here's what I was thinking. Since they let Christian Kirk go and they really don't have a proven slot on the roster, with all their Rams connections, don't you have to kick the Cooper Kupp tire here? I know his salary is not what you want, but he's a winner. Okay, he's tremendous. All he does is get open for a quarterback on third down and has great hands. I don't know. I would think that Trevor Lawrence would pick Cooper Kupp up on his own private plane to bring him to Jacksonville.
Well, I mean, Liam had him. Like, he was the offensive coordinator out there, so he knows how to utilize him and use him, and he understands the kind of offense that Liam has run in the past. It won't be exactly the same, but I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility at all. I think everything's on the table. If there's a player out there that can help with that scheme, they will go through and figure out if it's the right fit and see if it's feasible. So everything's on the table for this team. It's a full reboot right now.
How much behind the scenes are they blaming Doug Peterson and Trent Baalke? Because let's face it, 2 years ago at this time, we thought the Jags were the up-and-coming franchise in the league. A year ago at this time, it was, a couple of key guys got banged up. We had a tough month, but we're still the team to beat in the South. And, the owner thought it was the best roster that he's ever had. So how much is being blamed on Peterson and Baalke, and how much do you think these three guys are actually going to blame the roster?
They have said multiple times, this new crew, Gladstone and Cohen, that this is not a 4-win roster. There are parts here that you can build around and play with. And there were certain things that Baalke and the previous regime did to get the roster back to a better form than it was when they arrived here, right? I mean, the depth of it is a little better overall. And then the coaching part of it, I mean, there's a reason they got fired. I mean, that's the reason they both got run out of here. So, but that's going to be in the rear view. I think now you just kind of build it from where it is, and don't worry about how it got there. Let's figure out how we're going to get out of this and win football games. That's going to be the mindset here. It's not a blame game anymore. That's over. The blame game was when the pink slip came in.
Right. Okay.
And that's going to be the approach of the team. But yes, and then you read the NFLPA vote or rankings come out every year, right? They just came out the other week, and one of the worst ranked ones was coaching.
You guys can't suck enough. Going back to Coughlin, I mean, honestly, apparently you guys are you're the worst. I'd rather be on a high school team that's lost 83 in a row. Really, apparently you guys just can't suck enough.
One of the worst rated areas was head coaching last year. So that's from the players' perspective and all that.
Right.
So it's all over now. We'll see.
All right. I'll give you here's my off season for the Jags. Mason Graham in the first round, best corner you can get your hands on with the early second round pick, best interior offensive lineman you can get your hands on with the early third round pick. I signed Javon Holland. I trade for Cooper Kupp. If that's the Jags off season, how'd I do?
You need another interior lineman somewhere.
Okay.
I don't know where. Maybe free agency, a guy that can just jump in right away, and then maybe that third round interior guy is your swing. Let's give him a year or so to get right.
Okay. So how are they financially? Like, can they afford Holland and Kupp right now? Would probably cost you $40 million cap wise. I don't know how much room you have after that. You'd have to rework some contracts. I mean, how much flexibility does Jacksonville have on the market next week?
I think they have a little bit. I mean, I don't think they're quite to 40, even with the Christian Kirk stuff, but they can maneuver some money around. Mr. Khan has been willing to do that over the last couple of years to stretch some contracts out, redo some things if needed. So there's all that possibility. But, that list that you just had, it's not a bad list. There's some things that,
Thank you.
I don't know if they could do everything in 1 year.
I understand.
I
understand.
You can do enough now to roll the ball out in September and compete. And that's what they plan to do. They're going to be active next week.
30 seconds. So is the pressure for the first time now on Trevor Lawrence? No more on coaches, no more excuses. Okay. And the contract doesn't even kick in for another year. I mean, but now for the first time, is the pressure on him?
Third offense in 5 years? Okay, Trevor, this is the chance. This is your opportunity now. They're building it all around you. You got to go perform and stay on the field and stay healthy and lead this team to the promised land. That's the goal. We'll see.
Could you just pick up a piece of paper and just read a sentence? Okay. Honestly, I think my mother just wants to hear you read the alphabet. Okay. Could you just open up a book and read the first line on page 37? Okay. My mother loves when I bring you on as a guest. She loves your voice.
I've never met her. I'm sure she's a sweetheart. And I'll read for a fee. I will read anything you want.
That's not true. You would read for a fee from me. You would do it for free from my mother. Who are you?
That's true. That's very true. She's a lovely lady, I'm sure.
No, she's my mom. She's sarcastic and snarly. And no, who do you think I got it from? He's JP Shadrick.
Probably like her. She's nice.
Right. Westwood One, Touchdown Radio Network, Jags Radio Network. Follow him on X at JP Shadrick, JP Shadrick. Hey, buddy, take care. Hopefully we can get together soon.
Enjoy Muscle Shoals. See ya.
For over 50 years, the Nolan family has been dedicated to protecting local families. Nolan Family Insurance is a second-generation independent agency.
I was going to take that offline just for a second if you guys wanted to talk, but
no, he's got to work. He's at work.
That's 941-639-1122 or NolanAgency.com. Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymade.com/FTMYERS. American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net.
Basketball's heating up the hardwood. What a great time to stop in at the Floor Meisters and look at their hardwood. A large selection to choose from, including Mirage hardwood flooring. Floor Meisters has a look and style you want. Mirage wood is grown and made in Canada from the finest quality wood flooring you'll find. And while you're in, ask to see the Petite Enfant collection. 5 custom colors made only for the Floor Meisters. So good it has a 35-year warranty. Floor Meisters, 6281 Naples Boulevard, next to Costco, or floormeisters.com.
This is Miller and Moulton.
I'd like to thank the Hollywood Foreign Press for this great honor. I would also like to thank my wife, Nancy, for her constant support and for being so beautiful tonight. That's true. And to Greg Daniels for his talent, courage, and sheer audacity. This is good. Thank you. Also to my wife for giving me 2 wonderful children, as painful as her labor might have been. Thanks also to an excellent cast, crew, and writing staff, all of whom I am indebted to. If it were not for you, I would not be here right now. I don't know about that. Steve Sauer, Michelle Bowen, Matt LeBog, Holly Burrell, Nancy, my precious wife, who put her career on hold in support of mine, and who sometimes wishes that I would let her know when I'm going to be home late so she can schedule her life, which is no less important than mine. To my parents for not making me go to law school. And finally, to the love of my life, my wife, Nancy. Thank you very much. Great honor.
That's a great speech.
2 strikes on Brett.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Mark off for the rest of the week. Rick Church manning the controls in our Southwest Florida studios. Miller and Moulton, millerandmoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. Go to twitch.tv/Miller and Moulton. See what Rick looks like. All right. He's adjusting the camera and the lighting slightly as the show goes on. Okay. He started in the shadows. Okay. Now he has emerged from the shadows. You get a clear view.
Do you want me to turn the lights on?
No. I love the moonlighting. Besides, I look like I had to close.
Yeah, I was going to say, you kind of look like you're in a bit of a shelter yourself.
No doubt. Because what happened is the sun's coming up here in Florence, Alabama. I'm here to broadcast an A-Sun semifinal tonight, Jacksonville and North Alabama. And the sun was coming up behind me. By the way, Tennessee River right behind me. Beautiful. Got the dam. Okay. I love it. I do. Florence is probably 20 minutes south of the Tennessee border. Great. I love small town America. I really do. And this is a big deal tonight, this game. North Alabama's never been to the tournament. Jacksonville hasn't been to the tournament since '86. One of these teams is going to be playing in the final on Sunday. I love this stuff. I geek out for this stuff. I really do. It keeps me young. But the sun was coming up behind me, and that the sun behind you is a bad visual. It drowns out the lens, and so you can't really see me. It's distracting. You wouldn't continue watching the show on Twitch with the sun coming up behind me. It's blinding. It's distracting. So I had to pull the curtains. And yes, now this is something you learn about a hotel room. There is no overhead lighting in a hotel room. None.
Lamps.
That's it, though. And usually there's like a lamp in the corner and 2 lamps by the beds on each side. Maybe you can get a lamp on the desk. So I have a desk lamp in front of me, and I had to move. People love when I stay on the road. I tip well because when they come to clean up the room, there's not much of a mess, but usually furniture has to be moved back to how the room looked like before. And so I had to move the big light that was in the corner of the room. Well, it's not in the corner of the room right now. It's next to me. Okay, because otherwise I'd be sitting here in the total darkness. Instead, everything behind me is in total darkness, and I do look as if I am broadcasting from a bunker in Kiev. I do. I'm not. I'm in beautiful Florence, Alabama, and it's a shame because the Tennessee River's right behind me, and I'd love to be able to show it to you.
Well, maybe tomorrow, David, I'll turn the lights on. Again, this is just standard fair lighting for most of us when we're in this particular studio. But,
right.
And I also want to mention, since you've kind of made it seem an attraction, like, look at Rick Church. There's been 2 commenters on the Twitch page who have both made references to me looking like Wolfman Jack. And now I've heard Jerry Garcia before, but
okay.
Wolfman Jack? Really?
Do you take that as an insult?
No, not particularly.
I mean, we could do a side-by-side. Who do we think is better looking, Wolfman Jack or Jerry Garcia? I would think Wolfman Jack would win.
Probably. Yeah, probably.
All right. But yeah, you got the full beard going now, longer hair in the back. So, you're doing you.
It's a lot of hair for a 60-year-old man.
Well, hey, listen, as we all know, when you get up there in age, if you can grow it, you keep it. I mean, just wherever you can grow it, you keep it. It's a little messy around the ears and inside the nose, but otherwise, if you can grow it, you keep it.
That's a lot. That's a little messy in a lot of places.
A little too much information. Miller and Moulton, Jeff Cameron, Sam Peebles talking Braves, Soren Petro, the Chiefs, JP Shadrick, the Jags. They've all been guests on the American Paint Supplies Hotline, your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. I cannot promise you that these shows are ever going to make it to millerandmoulton.com. All right, because Mark does all that stuff. All right, we don't have a poll question because Mark does that. All right. We're not going to have a good, bad, and ugly. All right. We're not going to have a today. Maybe a little bit of today was the day when I got a few things. Okay.
I'll be ready to go.
We do have a system play. All right, because there's only one game involving a ranked team tonight, and Michigan State's favored and on the road at Iowa. Our system, by the way, is 4-1 on the week, a half a point away from 5-0. Some of you, when you placed your bet, you won on our system play. So to some of you, the system is 5-0. Thank you very much, and that's after a winning week last week. So we're back. We had a couple of rough weeks there, middle of February, but we are back. And unfortunately, this is the last week. Because next week, neutral court stuff with the conference tournaments and then the NCAA tournament. So the system basically ends this weekend. So we're at 57%, I believe, on the year. 57 or 58% so far on the system. We were above 60 till we had those 2 rough weeks in the middle of February. But so far, doing okay. Iowa is the system play tonight. It's the home finale for the Hawkeyes. Michigan State needs a win tonight or a win at home over the weekend against Michigan. 1 win, and Michigan State clinches the Big Ten regular season title and the 1 seed in the upcoming Big Ten tournament. You're a Gophers fan.
Sort of, yeah.
I know you grew up in Duluth, so the Bulldogs, are closest to your heart. But just curious whether or not, with the way that March has become all about the tournament and that people, do you still value winning your regular season conference title as a fan?
I mean, not really. What does it really mean?
Well, in some places they put a banner up for it. In some places, they put a banner up for it. Like, I got to be honest. I think it's a much bigger achievement to win the conference regular season title than go to a neutral location and win 3 games and win the conference title. But that's what most people put the banner up for now. I think the 2-month slog and 16, 18, 20 conference games, that's what should be honored, not the cash grab in Indy or Chicago that is the Big Ten basketball tournament.
Yeah, well, of course, in the Power 5 conferences or whatever, in the big conferences, if you're the regular season conference champion, you're going to get into the tournament. Is it maybe some protection? But that really would count for most of the teams at the top of the big conference, that they will be guaranteed a spot no matter how they perform in their conference tournament.
Like St. John's just captured their first Big East regular season title in 40 years. Now it's probably because it's 40 years, but they are celebrating out of that. By the way, is it last night or tonight? Rick Pitino and some of the guys on the team are going to be on the Tonight Show.
I haven't heard that.
Yeah, well, because that's the show's in New York, and I think Jimmy Fallon's having them on. Pitino's got to wear the white suit. I mean, come on. You got to wear the white suit, don't you? Going on the Tonight Show.
I mean, that's great that they won their conference, but St. John's would have been in one way or another.
True. But it's a big deal for them because they haven't done it. And I think at Auburn, if they don't win the SEC tournament, to me, though, they won the SEC regular season title. Arguably, some are saying this is the greatest conference in the history of college basketball this year, this conference, and you win the regular season title. I think that, because here's why I think it's important and more important. If Auburn loses in the SEC tournament, they're still going to be a 1 seed. They won the SEC regular season. They're a 1. I think they can lose this weekend to Alabama. I think they can lose their first round game in the SEC tournament and still be a 1. Why? Because they'll be SEC regular season champs even if they lose this weekend. I mean, think about it. Florida, we believe, clinched a 1 last night, Rick. Why? Because they went into Bama and won. They've also gone to Auburn and won. They beat Tennessee by 30. But we think because of what they did in the regular season, they're a 1. We think Florida could then lose in the SEC semis and still be a 1 seed.
Absolutely.
So I value January and February more than the first week of March for the big conferences. It's why I love the little conferences so much. This is everything. This is everything. Miller and Moulton.
To you, the listeners, for making us one of the highest rated shows for men, because the working man is one of the toughest demos to reach, and we do. Great sponsors like Floor Meisters, American Paint Supplies, Glass Doctor, Sleep Treatment Direct, Game Day Men's Health, and Molly Maid recognize that, and we thank them. And if you own a business and working men are your clientele, the most cost-effective way to reach them is through us. Text Miller and Moulton at 21,000 or directly via X at that Mark Miller or the David Moulton.
Wine glasses never fall over until you get a brand new rug.
Oh, no!
Ketchup bottles act normal till you're wearing a new shirt.
Oh, you kidding me?
And rocks slide peacefully on the road till the day you get a brand new windshield. Then they fly up off the road and attack without mercy. That's why new windshields from Glass Doctor come with our windshield protection plan. Unlimited repairs and one replacement for 12 months. Don't just fix it, protect it. Glass Doctor. A neighborly company.
Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. Sleep problem but don't want to wear a CPAP mask? This is Mark Miller for Sleep Treatment Direct. The mask wasn't working for me, and I didn't think I had an alternative. I do. We all do. They have such simple alternatives with greater success than the mask. Visit sleeptreatmentdirect.com. That's sleeptreatmentdirect.com. And if you are like me and your CPAP machine isn't working for you, it's time for a change. Call 239-444-1741. That's 239-444-1741. Sleep Treatment Direct. Sleep safe and sound.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Rick, I don't know if you saw this comment on Twitch. You're like the uncle that always hands me a sip of his whiskey and a cigarette.
I did see that. Yeah.
By the way, you got a Michael McDonald. Okay. Comparison.
Oh, but yeah. Oh, I see that. Yeah. Yeah. My hair's not quite as gray, but
True. But you're younger.
oh yeah, yeah, for sure younger than Michael McDonald. No doubt.
Hey, thanks for doing this. Really
Oh,
appreciate it.
listen, thank you. And again, I think you're
No.
being far too generous.
Absolutely
I
not.
mean, because like you said, because like when I was in here yesterday with Mark, he's like, well, don't worry about the podcasts and don't worry about this. And I'm like, I'll be in to get everything set up. And I'm like, well, I feel like I'm just kind of, driving a Tesla on autopilot.
Well, even if you feel that way, you're doing it at 6 a.m.
Yeah, that's
okay. All right.
I haven't been a morning person in a long time.
Yeah, exactly. You and I both. You know that.
Yeah, yes. Oh, yes.
No, this is not my. It's not my first choice. It is Mark's though. Mark always preferred mornings.
Really?
Yes.
No.
Yep. And I will say now that he has a 10-year-old, soon to be 11-year-old daughter. It fits his lifestyle even better than before.
Yeah, I mean, hey, some people are in tune to doing that morning thing.
Yeah, you and I are not two of them.
No, I'm not a morning guy.
No. Oh man. I used to love being a late night person.
Oh yeah, me too. I mean, I still do love being a late night person. I really do. When most of the nights of the week I'm here till 10, 11 o'clock, whatever,
Yeah, but
It's
then
nice to go home and, chill
turn on
and
a late
quiet
game.
time.
Right.
And, yep,
Right.
absolutely.
Yep.
I
miss
like
late
the
games.
quiet of late night.
I used to like when I worked, especially in local TV, because my wife was always asleep early. I'd go to the bar and sit by myself and unwind at the bar over 2 drinks, watching a game, just sitting at the corner of the bar. Instead of turning the TV on at home and making noise at home, I'd make the noise at a bar. I'd come home, not make any noise, go straight to bed. And I was always pretty good. I can have 1 or 2 drinks and go home. I always knew.
Overindulged, yeah, that's
I always knew if I got a DUI, it cost me my career. So I never. Well, I was a working TV
And
guy.
that actually is one of the reasons why I don't drink at all. I've not had, not that it was a problem, but I just don't enjoy drinking alcohol, and
Yeah. Hey,
part of it is because when I do, that's how it is, David. Once I have like 1 or 2, I'm like, I don't want to stop. I'm like, okay, let's keep this ball rolling. And then it's a real fine line from there to too much. So.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton. Text the guys what's in your mind at 21,000. That's 21000. And now, here's David Moulton.
22 minutes till the top of the hour, 16 until we're out of here. Miller and Moulton, millerandmoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. No Mark today, no Mark tomorrow. So, unfortunately, no good, bad, and ugly. There is a little bit of what's on tap and a little bit of today was the day when, but no good, bad, and ugly. Apologies. Fortunately, though, just like no poll question today, no good, bad, and ugly today. Well, neither are sponsored. So, we have a reprieve until next week. Hopefully we'll have sponsorship, but also but Mark will be back. So, that's what he's responsible for. So he'll take care of it then. Rick Church, manning things, producing and engineering back in our Southwest Florida studios. Take a look at Rick on Twitch, twitch.tv/Miller and Moulton. Since the show is not being podcasted, if you miss any part of the show, and we interviewed Jeff Cameron, Sam Peebles talking Braves, Soren Petro, the Chiefs, who traded Joe Thuney yesterday, the Bears, JP Shadrick, and all the Jags moves. If you miss any of those interviews, you can rewatch the show on Twitch. Twitch.tv/Miller and Moulton. There you go. And all guests on the show joining us on the American Paint Supplies Hotline, your one-stop shop for all your coatings needs. Did you see Al Horford yesterday?
Yes.
Last night. Did you see the clip?
No.
So Celtics won. They beat Portland by 10. And Al's being asked about the game. And, he's given an answer. He's given hundreds of times. And then Derek White walks by. And Horford just stops looking at the press, giving his answer, and looks over at Derek and says, "Hey, did you see the Gators won?" And then goes back to giving his answer. I love how much, and I wish the media would talk to them about it more, how much these pro athletes love, in many cases, their college alma mater. All the friendly wagering that gets done in the locker room when teams will play against one another. And we see it usually in big games, and so-and-so's got to wear so-and-so's jersey, or, if they lose. But, oh, man, love it. And we've told the story before. We've had some of the most famous, guys who are in both the College Football Hall of Fame and the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And we've had them on the show. And we ask them, you could line up one more time. More times than not, they choose Saturdays. Okay, than Sunday. So I just thought that was cool, in which this is arguably the best Gators team since Al Horford was a Gator.
Oh, what a team that was, huh? The back-to-back champion Gators.
Can you believe Al Horford's still in the league?
I know that's amazing.
I mean, because correct me if I'm wrong, weren't that 06, 07? The back-to-back Gators basketball teams?
Yeah, I mean, when I think of some of the other players that played on that team that have long since retired, and I can't even think of
everybody.
Yeah, the guy who played for the Bulls with
Yannick Noah. Right.
I mean, that you don't even think of them as being NBA players anymore. So yeah, it's amazing, and he's still good. He still contributes.
But UConn last year became the first since the Gators to go back to back. But yeah, it was 06, 07. Al Horford's still active in the league. Al Horford's still quite the contributing member to a championship team in the league.
Absolutely.
So just to go down the lane one more time with Al Horford. So do you know why Oklahoma City is going to get the Sixers first round pick this year unless it is in the top 6 of the draft? It's because of Al Horford. Philly was trying to get Horford's salary off their roster. They didn't think he was going to be a productive player anymore. And so they said to somebody, listen, we'll give you a first round pick protected if you'll take Horford and his salary off our hands. And Sam Presti in Oklahoma City said, yeah, sure, we'll do that. And all these years later, the Sixers are having a horrendous season. It looks as if they're going to be in the lottery. It's going to be very close as to whether or not it's top 6 protected. But if it's 7th or 8th or whatever pick of the draft, Oklahoma City's going to get it, not Philadelphia.
That's all they need.
I was going to say they're probably going to the NBA Finals.
Yeah,
and they could easily have a top 10 pick as well in the draft. Now, it's not considered a deep draft and all that, but still. But
if Al Horford were still with the Sixers now, he would not be contributing to make that team better.
No, but he fits perfectly on the Celtics.
Yes, he certainly does.
Yes. So Miller and Moulton, millerandmoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. NHL trade deadline is 3:00 tomorrow. The Western Conference, there's now like 4 teams for one spot. It looked like there was only going to be 2 teams for one spot for the longest time, but now it looks like there's 4 teams for one spot. So maybe there might be some wheeling and dealing out west, besides the ones that they can actually dance with Lord Stanley. But usually a lot of the times the wheeling and dealing happens for teams that are just trying to get into the tournament. The East is nuts. Basically, there's like 2 teams that are mathematically out of it, Pittsburgh and Buffalo. So you've got 7 teams for 2 spots, something like that, 8 teams for 2 spots. I mean, it's crazy in the East. How crazy is the league going to get? Usually the NHL gets nuts. And you saw what a difference, by the way, in sports. The Lightning gave up 2 first-round picks and a second-round pick for a second-line winger and a fourth-line centerman. And the second-line winger might even be a third-line winger. But it's scoring depth and a good defensive forward who's excellent on faceoffs. And they gave up 2 first-round picks and a second-round pick. And when their general manager was asked about mortgaging the future, he said, I'd much rather have a bunch of good players now than a bunch of draft picks that later. How many of you want your GM to act that way. Rick, you said it earlier. You think draft picks in most every sport are universally overvalued.
Especially in the NFL, yes, but I think so, yeah. I mean, how much evidence do we need, David, that any draft is a crapshoot? I mean, it's ridiculous to give the examples of all the top 5 picks that have been complete busts and all the 4th, 5th, 6th rounders who have become, all pros. So yeah, it's there's no guarantee that it's going to,
no, far from it. I think also there's this obvious stat to back up your line of thinking, whether you're right or wrong, but to me, there's a stat to back it up. 18 to 20, lately anyway, 18 to 20 first round picks end up having their 5th year option picked up. Now you have to decide after a guy's 3rd year, if you're going to pick up the 5th year option. If you pick it up, it is 100% guaranteed. Even if a year later you go, oh boy, we made a mistake. If you cut them, that whole amount counts on your cap. It's guaranteed. But 20 out of 32, say, do the math. What is that, 63%? It's a first round pick, mind you. Okay, that over a third of the general managers, for whatever reason, and hell, the general manager may not be the guy that drafted that guy, but for whatever the reason, 37% on average of general managers in the NFL lately don't even pick up the 5th year option on supposedly one of the better players they were supposed to be drafting of the last 3-4 years. Imagine how many mistakes are then made in 2nd rounds, 3rd rounds, 4th rounds, etc. I believe, and I understand, they're cheap currency and to fill a roster and the whole deal. I get it. I know. But to me, Saturday draft picks, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, and the 7th round, if I can get a proven player, even if it's a 1-year rental, but if it's a 2-year rental, I'd be giving them away like chiclets. Yeah, absolutely. You can guarantee me for a 5th round pick, I can get 2 years of solid play at a position. I understand I'm going to be paying a lot more for the guy I'm acquiring than I would have been if that 5th round pick was doing that job. But the odds are that 5th round pick is not. So free agency officially begins Wednesday in the NFL. Legal tampering begins Monday morning, which basically means that free agency is underway now. And we all know it. And when reports start coming out over the weekend and on Monday and Tuesday, and they're worded in such a way where it's not absolute, so-and-so and so-and-so are talking about it. Yeah, that's a done deal. That's a done deal. That's given to Rappaport and Schefter by either the team or the agent. And they're getting that out there. And then at 4:01 on Wednesday, they're going to send it out officially.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So NHL trade deadline, 3:00 tomorrow. This league usually has chaos associated with it. And NFL free agency, you could argue, is already underway. Even though officially it's not underway till next week, you could argue it's already underway. All right. We mentioned the system played tonight. There's only one, because there's only one game involving a ranked team on the road, and that's favored. Michigan State, 6.5-point favorites at Iowa, 8:00 FS1. So you got the Hawkeyes. I think it's their home finale. 8:00 tonight, FS1. Would this be Fran McCaffrey's last game as coach at home for Iowa? There's a lot of loud whispers that this is going to be the end for Fran. So, chance to deny Michigan State a Big Ten regular season title, getting 6.5 at home against the Spartans. Elsewhere, NBA tonight. Got a bunch of games. 6 of them. Orlando's at home for Chicago. Right now, those are the 9 and the 10 seeds, I believe, or the 8 and the 10 seeds in the East. Knicks are at the Lakers, 10 o'clock on TNT. Sixers are at the Celtics, 7:30 on TNT. That's your double dip. By the way, very quickly, Rick, because you're a big NBAer, you're a T-Wolves fan.
I am.
They're tied with the Warriors for the 6th seed. Okay, so it's going to be close as to whether they can avoid the play-in or not. Okay, are you excited about the T-Wolves prospects the rest of the way, yes or no?
No, not at all. I mean, because, let's face it, to state the obvious, the Karl Anthony Towns trade was a disaster. And Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo just have not really gelled with this team. The chemistry they've been so inconsistent all year. And injuries. No, I'm not excited at all.
Okay.
You go from like appearing in the Western Conference Finals for a franchise that had been so snake bitten for so long, and then you just drop right back down to the pack. Hey, David, 3 years ago, if you'd have told us we were in the playoff game, we'd been like, yeah. Well, remember the Timberwolves were kind of criticized for celebrating a play-in game win a couple of years ago. That was a big deal for them, but no, I'm not excited for that anymore. Not after last year.
9 NHL games. Both the Lightning and Panthers are home. In fact, Tampa Bay is on ESPN at 7 o'clock hosting lowly Buffalo. Wow, this would be a huge letdown. Wonder if the Lightning will have a letdown tonight. They showed up for Columbus. They showed up for the Panthers. They had won 8 in a row. Just curious. Speaking of the Blue Jackets, Panthers hosting them tonight. And the 9:30 back end ESPN with a doubleheader, San Jose at Colorado. So a couple of bad teams visiting really good teams tonight is your hockey doubleheader. So as for today was the day when, sorry, should have gotten to that earlier. 1899 Bayer patented aspirin on this day in 1899, and it was Walter Cronkite's last anchoring of the CBS Evening News tonight in 1981. So there you have it. Miller and Moulton. I'll be back tomorrow with a full lineup of guests. Rick Church will be on the other side of the glass as well. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we thank you for listening to Miller and Moulton.
For over 50 years, the Nolan family has been dedicated to protecting local families. Nolan Family Insurance is a second generation.
All right.
Okay.
So I guess, everything went great, I think, with the exception of our little glitch at the beginning. So.
Yep. And hopefully, knock on wood, it won't happen again.
Yep. Sounds good.
Okay. Thank
you. I'll see you tomorrow.
All right. Thanks.
All right, Dave.
Whether you're chasing peak performance, reigniting intimacy, or simply want to feel your best, Game Day Men's Health creates customized game plans to optimize your health. Call 239-427-3441 for